All right, I think we are live, so we'll wait for people to stop in the chat. Hello, Corey. Corey Scott says he says hello, Toss. Have not been here in a while. Well, shame on you. No, I'm just kidding. Welcome, Corey. Good to have you here for this Friday night chat, this Total OS chat for Good Friday. Well, it's not a Good Friday. It's just a Good Friday because it was cloudless today. So, sunny, still cold. So, welcome. Just a random chat for this evening, whatever's on your mind about technology, Windows, Linux, washers. Me and Joe were talking about washers. I had to buy a new washer, high-tech washer, but the drain hose was not high-tech. Yeah. So when you install a washer, you also get a built-in shower during the spin cycle. It's really great. Hello, Joe. Rick Biz, what's up? Hello, hello. KO 2610, welcome. So, yeah, we'll give it a few minutes and then we'll officially start this. What I may do after I start the intro or say the intro, I may transcode this into a podcast or something. Island B, hi-yo. Still jamming a Hackintosh. Okay.
Hackintosh. That basically
Hackintosh. I know do Hackintosh, man.
no. Mac is Linux with powder puff on its face.
Okay.
Yeah. It's all dressed up with lipstick, I guess, is the way I used to say it. My kids hate when I say that because they're Apple fans. I tell them, I say, that's just Linux with lipstick on it. So.
Joe says I should have purchased the most basic washer. Joe, from what I understand, well, two reasons why I did not. I thought about that, but I wanted something with a larger tub, 4.2 cubic feet versus they start at 3.5. Joe, I think. Joe and Joe.
Yeah.
But I got the 4.2 Joe Johnson, and it wouldn't matter because I went back to Lowe's, and apparently all the washers have a cheap corrugated, flexible Lego type of drain hose, which is garbage in my opinion. So whether you spend $500 or $1,000, it may not have mattered. Anyway, I got it working, but I'm going to have to shop for a longer hose, maybe some a little bit sturdier. But be careful, you buy a washer and the hose that comes with it, it's not very sturdy. Once that spin cycle starts, I got sprayed with dirty water to boot. Thanks, GE. Oh, I'm just ranting. Anyway, Red Robo's Workshop. Hello and welcome. Mark Williams says, hello, I like your show. Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
Yeah, I just did a search because I can't remember the exact site if it was Floss or where I had seen the story when we were talking earlier about when we can get into it later if you want, about the Microsoft Linux operating system. But if you just do a search, there's all kinds of articles. OMG, Ubuntu's got stuff on there now, yeah. And they're doing their own kernel. And
okay. Joe Johnson said, I'm talking about no hocus pocus. Yeah, you mean all the LED and the gadgets and stuff like that. I would have to agree. The less, it seems like the less technology, the more reliable they might be. But, mine is not the top of the line. I mean, mine still has mine doesn't have like a touch screen or a touch. It's got the knobs. I should have taken a picture and show you guys, but it has like a kind of like a digital soft touch knob. It looks nice. It has like an LED readout between wash, rinse, spin. It's when it comes to a high tech, it's simple high tech. I didn't have a problem with that. I had a problem with the drain hose. It's not a high tech drain hose. Yeah. Anyway, Corey Scott says, "God, you just got yourself a Wi-Fi per HP Envy 4520. Not much trouble setting it up for Linux. Nice. You changed from mint to light." After your drive died, backup was messed up. Oh no. Okay. Yeah. HP. It's what I use now. That's my number one choice for Linux right now. I would also probably take a look at Epson. That my two top choices for me as a fly in here. Come here. Anyway.
I wonder if you've got a scanner on that too, Corey, because that's the one thing that tends to be more of a hiccup with the printers is the scanners more than the printing itself.
Yep. Okay, it is official. Well, it's 8:32, so I guess we get started. All right, hello, and welcome back to another Total OS chat for this Friday evening, April 20th, 2018. It's great to have you on board. This is just a random chat for this evening using Google Hangouts, and we'll stay on, I'll stay on, and probably at least for a couple hours. I don't have any plans for this weekend. So we'll just go from there. So welcome everybody in the chat, Corey, Joe Johnson, Mark Williams, Red Robo, Highland, KO, and everybody else who joins. My co-host for this evening is another Joe Panico from Wisconsin, my paisano friend. So welcome all. Sneaky Linux just joined. Hi, Sneaky. How are you? Evening geezers, he says, and geezettes. No geezettes have joined us yet, as far as I know. What is the chat about this morning? Sneaky, we were talking about high-tech washers, believe it or not. I had a buy once my old one decided to finally take a permanent vacation. Bought a GE, semi-high-tech, but it has a very lousy Lego-type plastic drain hose that gave me a shower on the first spin cycle, so be careful. Yeah. But it seems to work okay. It's super quiet. They say it's higher efficiency, uses less water. I don't know, but it's quiet, so I like it so far. Horace says, any recommendations for a good graphics card? I don't play games, so I don't have to. You don't have to get the laser. If you don't play games, honestly, $50 range is probably good enough. I mean, this sounds cheap, but if you don't play games.
Yeah. Right? GTX 730 with 2 GB would do just as good. If he wants to go a little bit higher in case he decides to do, not necessarily the heavy stressful games, he could do a 1050 Ti, something like that. But right now, the downside to graphics cards is the pricing. They're, because of the Bitcoin mining, they're still up there. But if you look, the lower grade, I want to say lower grade, the more simpler cards, like I said, the 730 GTX 730 or something like that, it's still a little bit older gen card, and you could probably still get those in the 50 something $70 range, depending on in 2 gig or 4 gig.
Yeah, if you don't do gaming, if you're gonna do great gaming or video graphics and stuff, you're probably looking at least $100, probably close to $200. But for what you want to do, $50-$200 should be plenty, I would imagine.
Yeah, I've got a 10.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say I got a 1050 Ti in here, and this one of my machines I built a year ago, and I got that on sale. It was normally a $169 card.
Yeah,
got it for $139. That card right now is still pushing the 230s to 250 range.
Okay.
In today's prices, so.
Okay. Yeah, so I would you may want to check out search Linux compatibility first, just to be safe. Other than that, it should be fine.
Well, and the other thing too, I've got in the other machine, the one that I'm running right now that we're on here, I've got a GTX 760, which is a rebranded 680.
Yeah,
it's a 4 gig card. Those you could pick up in the $70 range too, and I have not had a lick of trouble with mine.
So. Cool.
And that will do gaming features sides too, but it's an affordable card, and he's got the extra muscle there if he ever changes his mind. I
also bought a remember how I tell my followers, fans, no matter what you use, back up, and back up again. So I ordered a Toshiba external hard drive in red. Comes in different colors. This was 1 terabyte. Can't believe how light they are. This is $47, I think. Nice. It's not bad. I tested it. It's great. I mean, it's super light. This is my third external hard drive. I was running the what do I have, an iOmega, and it didn't sound right. I don't know if it's because it was Linux. It was hooked up to Linux versus I don't know. But to be safe, I bought this just to have a third one. I feel safer now. So again, back up and back up again. You can never have really too many of these, in my opinion. If you're interested, check out the Amazon affiliate link below in the show notes if you want to help out the channel. In fact, check out the show notes below to get you caught up to what's going on. But yeah, it's 3.0 USB. It's works great. So simple plug and play. People ask me what software do I recommend for back. I don't use specific software. I just plug it in, drag and drop, and I'm good to go. So, um,
Yeah, the downside that I've noticed to the backups that are in Linux, a
yeah,
couple of them, you could set the increments and what they back up,
yeah,
but it's for whatever. And I've got the other internal
hmm
backup drive, the 4 terabyte. But to send it to that drive, they never seem to like it. Like it's time
oh,
shift, I think is what I was using.
oh, okay,
And the thing is if it goes like I've got a 240 gig SSD and then I've got another 500 gig in
yeah,
there too, but all of a sudden you see your primary drive space disappearing depending on how
uh,
many copies you save and everything else. So you really don't need to save a lot of copies. It's just a couple
yeah,
backups there, and then still keep your other ones like you said manually. So
yeah. I have like I said, I have a total of three plus a bunch of USB drives. I think I'm good to go. So just a matter of doing backups at least once a month. That's when I do them. But
right.
I saw Sneaky Linux posted something on car washing tech. He says he used to buy cheap machines, but he bought a 9 kg Samsung, a bit more cash. Uh, Joe Panika, you want to tell him about the Samsungs?
Yeah, yeah. Just be careful. Well, and they probably corrected the problem right now. If it's a similar type machine to what I have, I've got an LG. It's the top load for the washer and it's the front load for the dryer, and they're the 4.1 digital readouts on the top.
Hmm.
And it was probably 2, 3 months ago. There were stories coming out about the Samsungs. There was a woman specifically, and actually there were other cases. She was standing there in the laundry room with her son. They get up to 1,300 RPMs when they're looking to spin the water out of them, and the top blew off because the barrel is suspended. And the way they had that system set up before, it was just went enough off balance that it released one of those suspension cables and it blew the top right out of the machine. So, but I think that's been corrected. So I'm not trying to make you panic.
Yeah, no, you know what, Joe, you just reminded me because there was a joke when they first came out. They were saying, well, you can buy your exploding Samsung washer to match your exploding Samsung phone. Remember
Yeah.
the seven? Yeah. So,
But again, yeah, like I said, they're made. A lot of them are made by the same companies. Those machines were identical to the ones I had sitting here. And there are some times it takes off. You think there's a jet landing in the house.
wow. Well, you said
You
it's
know.
1300 RPM. That's
Well,
fast.
and you could set that's on high setting. You could set it a
Oh,
little bit
oh, okay.
lower. But if you've
Okay.
got like, especially towels or heavy things like that,
I could
it
just see.
takes a little bit of spinning to get the water out. Yeah.
God, we should laugh, but that's kind of funny in the way. Um, Anybody try Ubuntu 18.04? I did. I had screen tearing. At least in my full install, so I deleted it. I mean, well, it looks good when it wasn't tearing. It's fast. But yeah, maybe the final release comes out, it'll delve. But I was surprised. But anyway, yeah, Sneaky. You don't have top loaders in Europe. Ah, I didn't know that. Yeah, I chose a top loader. That's what I've been used to. So, you know.
Yeah, I tried 1804 in VirtualBox. It
Hmm.
ran, yeah, of course, it's not native hardware, but it ran well. And then I put it on my 64 gig dongle drive that I have
Yeah,
in my laptop because I
yeah,
have triple boot in there.
yeah.
And it was laggy. It was terrible. I don't know what
Wow.
happened or why. Unless the only thing, and in fairness, I probably should throw it on the SSD that's in there and
Just to
see if
see.
it's
Yeah, yeah.
different because
Mhm.
it might very well have been it didn't like the dongle,
Yeah.
USB. So
Yeah. Yeah. Um, hmm. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna stick right now with my Ubuntu Mate main machine. I'm gonna wait till the final updates are done version for Ubuntu. Have a final thoughts on that. And I've been thinking once that's done, delete that and maybe put MX17 or Peppermint, something lighter on that, something that doesn't need 4 gigs of RAM. I just edited for you guys that missed it. I did a I edited the interview I did with Alan Pope from Ubuntu from was it last week? We spoke over an hour. He's one of the developer or Snap developer assistant, something like that for Ubuntu. We spoke over, and he explains the whole thing on why Ubuntu has picked GNOME, and it was very enlightening. So
Yeah.
if you missed it, I just edited that conversation to about 15, 16, 17 minutes, just the highlights. So I might show that Sunday. If you guys want to catch that, so you know exactly what's going on with might be the most popular Linux-based system in the world. I don't have any hard numbers, but my first test in Linux was Ubuntu years ago, back in '06, and I'm not the only one. So be on the lookout for that. But it was very informative, talk about Ubuntu. So
It was. I felt like I learned a couple things, and I know. And first thing I thought of is when you talked, and you mentioned it too in there about doing your video on it with all the extensions and the issues you had and stuff.
yeah,
And
yeah. It's no,
yeah,
he
so I
explained
saw
it.
the
I mean, I don't want to spoil it, but he explained why they don't have a lot of extensions by default, and
yeah.
um, anyway, I'll probably maybe do another live short one Sunday if you guys want to watch it with me, have any comments. But no, what he said made a lot of sense. It really, really does make a lot of sense. And he also, by the way, he also likes Ubuntu Mate. So I guess he likes Simple also.
My man.
Yeah. So I told him, say hello to Martin Wimpress. They call him Wimpy. He's the developer, current developer, maintainer for Ubuntu Mate. I hope to have him on the show maybe next month. But yeah, Ubuntu Mate for me, there's something to be said for simplicity, And if I want fancy, I can go to my Ubuntu with GNOME or like whatever else I want to install. But it's like I said to Alan, what good is fancy and looks if you don't have stability and speed first? Well, first stability, obviously. Then to have the speed, that's a perfect combo sandwich, in my opinion. Robert Lopez, hello, welcome. Mark says Linux Mint or Ubuntu you recommending? If you have 4 gigs of RAM, it doesn't matter. If you don't, or if you want something zippier, right now I would try Linux Mint. If you are completely new, probably Linux Mint, Mark. But the latest Ubuntu, I am giving it a recommendation if you have 4 gigs of RAM. You will need it. It's just not quite as fast or as what it should. Now, I'm sure it'll get better, and Alan is aware of that. So we'll see what happens. Colin, hello. All right. I think we can have a few more people join. I saw Ben. Colin, do you want to join? Yeah, Ben. I just caught what you said. Yeah, give me a moment. Colin, if you'd like to join the chat, you're welcome. Please do. And let me go back to my email. This is just a random chat night. We've been talking about washer technology, how to buy new washer and high-tech washer and a low-tech Lego drain hose.
The one thing I've noticed was they were talking, like Corey and Joe Johnson, they were talking about SSDs and how expensive they are. I think they're very reasonable for what they are now, and they're getting better all the time. Especially, and Black Friday isn't the only time to buy something, because they're not always, Black Fridays don't always have the greatest deals. But if you watch, you could actually put out like a Newegg or Amazon or whatever, where you could set price points on what you're willing to spend on it. If it's a reasonable price, on when I say reasonable, on what they potentially could come down to, you can buy, like I have Samsung A50 Evos. I bought those for $130, 500 gig. I don't think that's expensive for when you think about that same drive 4 years ago was $1,000.
Wow.
So I think they've come way down. And I mean, you could get a terabyte drive for a couple $100. Those are getting a little pricey, but the thing is if you want something for quick boot up, quick operation, going through programs and everything, boom, 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 that's the way to go. And then do the mechanicals as your storage.
Well, think about when the 4K TVs first came out. Now they're it's like going to the flea market and buying a bushel of apples or oranges or something. They've come down in price. Hi Ben. Yeah, so given enough time, prices will drop. I don't have a 4K TV. Of course, Comcast. I don't think Comcast has 4K content, do they? I'm not.
Can you hear me, dude?
Huh?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, I
Yeah.
can. Yep. Yeah.
Yep, we're good.
Hi,
Okay.
hi, hello, Ben. Hello. Anyway, I just got a regular 1080p for now. Now, if I had a 4K camcorder, you should get a 4K TV, but I don't.
Oh, speaking of 1080 toss, look what I just got. New
What did you
laptop.
get, man? You got a
Now,
ah.
it's a Inspiron 760 7567 gaming computer.
Is that with Linux with Ubuntu on it?
Well,
Can't tell from here.
not Ubuntu, but Arch.
Okay.
Whoa. Yeah.
Ah,
And I did stock Arch, vanilla, no third-party installers, nothing.
okay.
And I
Wow.
edited, and it went through like maybe less than 30 minutes, so I had it done already.
Wow.
And I only have one mirror, that's the open source lab mirror, in my Pac-Man file.
Okay.
And I'm using XFC and Awesome Window Manager on it, Light DM, that sort of thing. I haven't booted into it yet to make sure that it works, but this does come with Intel Wi-Fi, a terabyte hybrid drive, which I still kept the Windows 10 boot just because, I didn't want to void the warranty, just so you know.
Yeah.
Because it has a year warranty on it, and I'm not opening it up to void that, or am I wiping the Windows recovery boot or whatever?
Yeah.
God, Colin, my God. He's calling me. I'm like, goodness. Okay, well, anyway. But yeah, so and it runs pretty fine. It has 8 gigs of RAM. It has dual GPUs on it, so but I did install Bumblebee for switching that and that sort of thing. But other than that, yeah, Linux seems to run fine on it. And right now I'm also putting Mac on it as well. So yeah, it's going to be a triple boot system here. And my dad brought it home for me yesterday. And I did test Old Republic on it. Runs perfectly fine. It actually runs better on this than it does on my desktop upstairs or my Mac laptop. So yeah, this is a very good machine, and I highly recommend it if you can find it to anybody who wants to game on their laptop.
Did you get a good deal? I mean, what was the price?
Well, it's Best Buy normally sells it for about $800, but they gave me a nice deal on it for $650, so about $150 off the normal price.
Okay.
So yeah, and
okay, as long as you like it.
And the best part is I haven't had to contact Dell about any sort of issue yet.
Nice.
Give
it a week or two and you will. No, I'm just kidding.
I got a 14. I've got an Alienware 14 XR2, I think is what it is. I barely use it. I bought it originally to carry my truck when I was a contractor to be able to do design work on it. And that thing, I got a deal on it because there's a story, and I won't bore you with the whole thing, but I had a tower, an Alienware tower. I had a Wi-Fi issue. They sent out a new tech. He broke the system. I didn't even get to use it. He broke it. So I said, send it back. I said, you know what? And I said, I'll spend more money and I'll buy a laptop. The only regret I have is it's 14-inch. I did that because it's being in the truck.
Yeah.
That was $2,400, that laptop. I got it for like 18 something. It's been sitting in that cabinet back here. I don't even know how long. I've taken it to Florida a couple times and it just sits.
Yeah.
And yet I bought a 15-inch to test. I'm kind of chuckling because you're talking about not wanting to avoid warranty. Yeah. I'm a PC tech too. So I bought a 15-inch. I think it's a 3550 or whatever it is. I can't remember the exact number, for testing, specifically for testing Linux.
Okay.
But the first thing I did was I wiped out all the windows on there, even the restore partition on purpose, and then I reloaded Windows with no bloatware, so I'd have it on there for now.
Yeah.
If I ever wanted to jump on it in a pinch because of a customer, if I have to take it with. And then I have within an hour to two max of getting it, I pulled the DVD drive out, pulled the cover off of it, and ordered a tray, put the SSD in there, the cover back on, shoved it in, so I don't have a DVD drive anymore, but that's where my SSD is for booting Peppermint right now. So
nice. Well,
kind of fun. I don't care about warranties and stuff like that. So.
Well, my dad paid to have the warranty, so I'm like, it's a year basic warranty.
No. In your case, that's the right way to go, especially if you're using it for gaming or whatever. Like I said, this is just
exactly.
I
And
think
my
it's
dad
300
brought it
bucks.
home, and he said, "Don't wipe windows." And I'm like, "Okay, well that's fine. I don't plan to anyways, because I've got this year-long warranty. I don't want to screw it." So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Well, you could if you wanted to wipe Windows with the bloatware on it, you could wipe that and leave the restore partition and then put it back on. But if you're afraid you're going to mess something up, then I'd leave it alone.
and I've already got Windows the way I need it. I'll just download some tool to wipe all the bloatware
Yeah,
out.
you don't want to mess with it while, I mean, if it's out of warranty, then you're on your own. Do what you want, but I wouldn't mess with it. You
Yeah,
know.
I'm not going to mess with it while it's
Yeah.
still in warranty now.
I
Right.
don't care about no stinky warranty, man.
No warranty, man.
I definitely want to keep that because in case
Good one.
I'll
case
just
something happens to go wrong and I need to call up for support, that I can't already fix,
Yeah.
I'll just call up Dell and have them instruct me. But yeah, I don't want to lose that opportunity in case something hardware or software wise goes completely.
Right.
But yeah,
Right.
for $650, it's not bad, and
Oh, it works, man. Yeah.
yeah,
You
it
know
works.
what? I
And
like my refurbished ThinkPads, so those are my
exactly.
backups,
Right,
so
exactly. But yeah, this was brand new, and my dad wanted to get me something that would last for doing so well on my tests, and well, this is that. Now, the only complaint that I have, well, it's not really a complaint, and the best part is keyboard lights up, so that way at night.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and the best part is it lights up red, so it's easy to read around the black frame around it. So
My ThinkPads have a little LED light at the top of the
yeah, my
screen, like
dad's
a little lip, and they
has that.
just enough, not too bright, not too weak, just enough. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty
Right.
cool. So
And I just love this backlit keyboard. It's not, and my Mac's backlit keyboard is not as good, but it gets the job done. So
nice, nice.
Yeah, I like my Alienware was the same way. I could not only change the colors, but I could actually split the colors up on the board itself, and I have it where it's maybe lighter in the middle, a little darker, whatever. I mean, the way they've set some of this stuff up now, it's pretty.
it's pretty amazing. Yeah. And I'm actually, when I get into Arch on this thing, I am going to look up how to configure the dual graphics, because there are some YouTube videos out there, but not specifically for switchable graphics. So there is a technology, like I said, called Bumblebee and Primus that you can use, but the Arch wiki would probably be the better way to go at that than a simple YouTube guide or something like that, from what I understand. So yeah, I mean, if you're going to run Arch, for those out there that haven't done it or have done it, I would say instead of following some, simple how-to guide on YouTube, seriously, this is not to be elitist, this is not to be stupid. Seriously, go to the wiki, follow the installation guide until it's ingrained in your mind. Because seriously, even if it's ingrained in your mind, still follow it to a T. Because seriously, guys, if you follow a how-to guide or something like that on YouTube or wherever, it's going to be specific to their setup, not yours.
I don't hop as much as I used to. I'm closing in, believe it or not, and maybe I should call my psychologist. I am closing in on 2,000 videos on this channel. Honest to God, I was looking at my video, chart. I'm like 1,998. Really? Almost 2,000 videos. But that was a lot of it from the early days of hopping to this, testing that, doing kind of like what you're doing, man, doing this, testing this app, that app, on this machine, that machine. Then I met, friends. I met IG, Spatry doing this. I mean, it adds up almost 2,000.
I get you, Toss. Well, with this machine and all my other ones from now on, if I'm going to test anything, I think it's going to be in a virtual, because, like you do, because truthfully, I'm really getting tired of bouncing around from distro to distro to distro. I mean, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to do it inside of VM instead of doing it on native machines.
I use USB bootable sticks. They're fast, they're easy.
If I need to test something on real hardware, I'll just do it off a thumb drive,
Yeah. I mean, I have machines, I have ThinkPads I can do a full install, but the early days I wasn't sure what I liked as far as I really did. Keep in mind that this was 06. So
my test machine is going to be my HP or my Samsung on a separate hard drive, my Samsung's just my test machine. This is my work machine, my real machine. My tower has a separate SSD I can test stuff on if I have to. But yeah, my Samsung or my tower on the separate SSD is going to be my test machine. This
Cool,
machine
man.
is going
Yeah.
to be my main daily driver.
Nice. Well, I stopped topping once I hit Ubuntu Mate.
Uh,
It's not surprising because my very first date was Linux. With Linux was with Ubuntu with the old GNOME 2 look, and Ubuntu Mate kind of brings me back to my first,
yeah.
love of Linux.
And
No surprise.
I don't hate the Mate / GNOME 2 interface, but truthfully, I'm just an XFC man. That's how I roll.
Joe, what was your first Linux test? Your first Linux.
Ever? You talking about ever?
Yeah, first taste of
It
Linux.
was
First
Ubuntu. I
date.
believe it was 6.4.
Oh, it was. I think that was mine the same. Back
Yep.
in
Yeah,
'06, I think.
I
Yeah.
was shortly after that. I was 8.04, and then I didn't know what the heck it was, that it existed.
Hmm.
I was basically blind as to what Linux was back then. And then as slowly as I progressed, I went up to 904 next, or 8.10 maybe. Yeah, it was 904. Or no, actually it was 9.10. This was around the days of Osgooey Tim back then.
Yeah.
And then I went up to 10.04 with the traditional GNOME 2 interface. And then I had 10.10 for a little while. And then when 11.04 came out with Unity, I was like, okay, screw this. Then I went to Gen 2 right away from that. And the place I actually first heard about Linux at all was this was back in the Windows Vista, Windows XP days. It was through a show called USA Computer Tech on TalkShoe. This is where JU Linux was first talked about to me. And I tell you, that distro is bleh. So back then it was actually just as good as anything else. But that distro is full of bloatware, full of who knows what, in my opinion.
Well,
I don't know if you ever
I,
looked at it.
when I spoke to Alan Pope of Ubuntu, and he says, it's he thinks Ubuntu will get progressively better, polished,
Yeah, exactly.
streamlined faster.
Exactly.
Think of when Unity first came out, it wasn't, it had its
It
issues,
has some
and
quirks, yes.
but it took a few years, and really, I thought Ubuntu Unity 16.04 was their best.
I agree. I
Yeah.
mean,
Um,
after the GNOME 2 phase, the Unity phase was good. I won't say it was the best desktop, but it was good. I will say that. It wasn't great. I'll
It's
give
9
it
o'clock.
right. That was my max clock.
okay.
Yeah. Either way, it was a good desktop for its time, but I think them going back to GNOME was kind of a bad idea in my opinion.
Well, again, I won't spoil it. I posted the full interview. I think it was last week. I edited what I did. I edited down to about 16 minutes. I'm going to probably run that again Sunday live for the people who just want the short of it. And he explains what they did. You know what? After he explained it, again, sometimes we tend to see things on the outside and guess or speculate, think we know what we know. But he explained it. And you know what?
What?
As a Windows neutral view of things, what he said made sense. It made sense why they picked GNOME. But again, I won't spoil it, but I'll run it probably Sunday.
Well,
We
if
can
you
watch it
do, I will
together, and
come watch it, and
But
I'll
he
get.
explained it, and it made sense, and he seemed understanding.
Mm,
But I think it will get better, more streamlined. But I did tell him, one of the reasons why I won't keep it, if not the main reason, it's kind of feels slow, sluggish, even with 4 gigs of RAM.
right.
But
Well, I've got 8, and even 16 on my MacBook Pro.
yeah.
That I run, on any sort of system. It's just a resource hog and laggy. It
Mhm.
is.
I think
And
it'll get better. I think it'll get better.
it will get
But
better, but
it is stable. I will say
yeah,
this,
I'm,
running it, it's
I'm half
stable.
tempted, to throw 1804 as a
Yeah.
test only on this machine because I don't want to wipe away all that Arch stuff that me and my buddy Jamie just went through because he was there on Tmux watching me, and we went through that install together, and I don't want to, wipe away all that junk that we just did to get Arch on there because Arch is not
Yeah.
for the masses, for the newbie user, as you say.
Yeah.
So I think that if I just went through a whole full blown command line Arch install, I don't want to throw it away like that on him, you know?
Well, last month, Derek from DT posted a video. He says, people, will you stop telling your friends to install Arch Linux for them or something?
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, uh, years ago when we were doing the news and nonsense with me, Spatry, and IG, Infinitely Galactic,
Yeah.
Spatry was using Arch at the time.
Yes.
And he was trying to convince me, oh, Toss, come on, grow up. You got to try Arch. It's the best thing. Once you get it customized, I said, forget it. You guys are. Anyway, he tried to convince me. I know it seemed years. It wasn't years, probably weeks or months. And
Yeah.
I didn't do it. Finally, we got on live one day, one night. He says, you know what, Toss? You were right. I'm sorry. That's it. I've had it with Arch. I don't have time to fix things. I need something out of the box. I'm going back to XFC, whatever,
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah. That I can understand because, after a while, it does get to be a pain in the neck that you have to
Yeah.
fix everything yourself. Whereas with Ubuntu and all these other things,
Right. I mean, if you got the time to tinker, there's nothing wrong with Arch and those type of distros, but I don't want to tinker anymore. I just want it to work. So,
I mean, I'm eventually nearing that point myself where I don't want to have to screw around with everything. I just want it to load and work. But, if that day ever comes, then I'm just going to wipe Arch and put Ubuntu, Mate, or Start Ubuntu on it.
Let me ask the people in the chat or people watching out there, don't be shy. What was your first Linux date? Was it Ubuntu? Was it Linux Mint? Was it Arch? I'm just out of curiosity, but I think a lot of people, coming from Windows. I mean, I saw Ubuntu in was it Popular Science, Popular Mechanics magazine? Are they even still around?
I don't
That's
know
what I first.
I've never heard of them, but I'm sure by now probably.
Yeah, and some of them had like a CD that came with the CD to try Ubuntu, but that's how I got started.
It's funny when you watch some of the opinions. I'm looking at what Joe Johnson said about Manjaro. Let's put it this way: he doesn't like it. But the funny thing is it's
a lot of people do.
Linux is like love-hate relationships. Because depending on what works for you, either you like something or you can't stand it. There's no in between for the most part.
There's no in between at all.
Yeah.
And see, I absolutely love MX-17. And I honestly thought that was going to be my daily driver over Mate until I had some display issues. But I think, and I started thinking about this the other day, it could very well be cabling too, because I have the card, the 760 that's in there. In fact, I'm trying to remember what it's got. I think it's got two DVIs. One of them's digital, one's analog, HDMI, and then it's got a display port. And I don't think and I have it. It comes with an adapter to go from display to like DVI. I still don't know that would technically work the right way as running a pure cable. So I'm going to try that again, because my goal here is, as much as I've always loved multiple monitors, and I've mentioned this in the past, I just bought this 34-inch, but I'm still seriously considering very soon here to go to a 43. So I can do 422-inch divides. And then that should eliminate my worrying about whether a distro is going to work, because I've got one screen to deal with. And I also thought that I still might run this 34-inch, possibly off of the same machine, but do a manual switch of the monitors when I'm running whatever, if I'm going to dual boot on one, and what I mean? So just run the monitor that I want for certain use. Like, I love this. It's a curved 34-inch. And it's beautiful for gaming, and it's specifically ATS, or ETS, because you feel like you're looking out of a windshield of a car. It's really cool. So,
nice. Yeah. I'll probably go with when I'm ready to buy. This has been a crazy month for me, spending money, new washer and new window for my car. Now my son's AC isn't working. I guess I won't be buying a monitor this month, but I have to get something bigger. But I'll probably 32. Might be a little bit too, because I like to have everything right in front of me, and like I wear contacts. I'm probably looking between 24 and 27 inch. I might get even two of those possibly, but anyway, We have people saying Slackware was their first. OpenSUSE. Somebody mentioned Corel. Okay, cool.
Howdy, Colin.
Colin, hello.
How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Colin. He can't hear us.
Can't hear us. You can hear us.
It's a settings thing. He's just got to get the settings figured out. Hangouts is different than what you're used to. You know, it's just if he can hear us, I wish he could hear us. Just tell him to go to the gear.
Well, it seems that Matthew Moore just told me that the next Windows 10 update was delayed again because Microsoft found another bug.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, they found a brand new bug. So, ironically, it's delayed again.
You're breaking my heart.
Yes, I won't sleep good tonight, haha. But you know, at least they caught it and not give it to all of us, right? Give the bugs to all of us. So,
right.
We have another vote for Linux Mint from Mark Williams. Okay. Yeah, I went from Ubuntu a while, multiple distro. I had hundreds of bootable CDs. I didn't get really comfortable with Linux until Linux Mint. I have to give credit to Linux Mint, the team, for making it more out of the box friendly. From that, I went to Zorin.
Orange Morin.
And then, others testing finally landed back with Ubuntu Unity, and I'm back with Ubuntu Mate, which reminds me of the very first Ubuntu. So there you go.
How you going, guys?
Madhouse Jack says my first distro was 1604 Ubuntu. Oh, okay.
We hear you, Colin.
Can you hear
Colin, can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear. Can you hear me?
Excellent. There we go. Hello. Welcome, Colin.
You know, to use Google Hangouts, you've got to actually have Google Chrome installed.
Yeah, I know.
I was wondering why it wasn't working.
Yeah, you got to have the Chrome install. Yeah, I use it because it's simple. It just works. So
if you're gonna do anything Chrome-wise, it's always better, in my opinion, to go with normal Chrome because Chromium to me just is.
Well, I'm running this in Chromium right now, and it works.
The only complaint that I have about Chromium is if you want a Chromecast, for example, you have to edit a file. But Matthew Moore has a tutorial.
Well, I don't use Chromecast, so I don't care. Yeah.
I use it.
Joe Johnson says Windows 10 is a bug. Okay. Well, it hasn't been buggy for me. It just works. Especially gaming is pretty good.
No complaints. Oh, and Toss, speaking of Windows, I actually installed Start 10 because I found the stock menu to be too frustrating.
Okay. That's cool. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Red Robo's Workshop says he remember trying Red Hat on a CD for free magazine in the 90s. Sure, yeah.
Yeah, I think I've still got a Red Hat CD there. Actually, they're one of the ones before it went Fedora.
Yeah.
Dang, man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I
think it was 10.4. 10.04 was the first time I tried Fedora, and I actually liked it back then.
Fedora 10. Ooh.
Then again, I didn't know much back then either. So
yeah. I didn't know that GNOME 2 was such a deprecated system. I mean, I don't even know when it first released, practically, because I know GNOME 1 was back in the 90s, and then GNOME 2, well, it was 13 years, I guess it was 2000, because back in 2013, it was like 13 years old, maybe? I mean, that's just a guess, but I don't know for sure. But I have to say, it had one of the most intuitive systems for new users, I guess, because a lot of people liked it. But I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Linux has come a long, long way. Like I said, when I first got started, it wasn't quite user-friendly, but it's gotten a lot better.
But I will
it's much better now.
Still needs more market share to port more apps to it. That's the problem.
I think that'll be just a natural thing that sort of happens because it's sort of, even Windows has taken, well, there's a big hype about Windows making some distro. It's only a web-based thing, I believe. I haven't looked into it, but it's not a distro as such, is it? I don't believe.
Yeah, they're making their own variant of Linux, yes. But
Mhm.
I think I'm not sure exactly what its purpose will be, but I've heard that they are coming up with some variant of or flavor of Linux that
They got something in mind planned in the long term. I'm not exactly sure what it is with Linux, but time will tell.
time will tell.
That is one strange marriage.
Time will tell.
Well, how do you go from saying something
Yeah.
is a cancer, which means you
Yeah.
completely can't stand it and hate
Right.
it, but all of a sudden you're totally in love with it? Well, think about, and this is the problem I have, is in
Yeah.
Microsoft doesn't do anything unless it benefits Microsoft. They have a plan for everything. And the thing that I always worry about is they try to trademark everything. Now, will they really be able to do a lot of damage to the Linux community if all of a sudden Shuttleworth sold out to them? And
Nah, I don't think so.
no, but
No.
it would damage, I think, the
Yeah.
Ubuntu base. Possibly. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe
It just sounds weird. It just sounds weird. I don't know what's going to happen, but
I
it
don't
sounds
trust
weird.
Yeah, they're up to something. I mean, that's
But
the way I feel.
don't forget, everything is based off of, at the end of the day, based
Yeah.
off Debian anyway.
Yeah,
So
it's based around Debian. Yeah, so
so that's where the roots come from, to be honest. So if something was to happen with Ubuntu, then everyone would just have to go Debian based, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
The only thing it's funny because they were the ones that used the word cancer.
Yes.
And if you think about how Microsoft operates, that's exactly how they operate. They plant their seed or their cancer bug, and then eventually it starts spreading into everything else. And I never would have thought back in the 90s when I got my first computer that I would ever be thinking this way. I mean, who would ever thought you had been thinking this way? You looked at a computer as, a fun device, a fun tool, whatever you used it for. And then when the internet came around, it changed the world of it. And now it's almost like the more you know, the less fun it is sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's a good point, Joe, you raise, actually. But see, I use my computer. I used to use it for doing all sorts of spreadsheets and all that sort of thing. Now I use my computer mainly for making videos about Linux, right? So the way I use it has changed.
Back then, probably most consumers, including myself, Windows is all there is, and maybe Mac, But once I heard about Linux, I'm like, I actually have a choice. There's no spyware or virus. That sounds good. And here I am. But really, if it wasn't, but you're right, Joe. It seems like the more we know, the more we almost hate it for knowing what we know because of what's going on with the web and privacy and hacking.
It's true.
It's good because the web is a library to the world. And we're here chatting as friends because of the web. So it's not all bad, obviously.
Right.
But you're right. If it wasn't for YouTube, I would cut my web time by 50%, if not more, But there's something to be said for getting more knowledge, chatting, talking, shooting the breeze, rambling or whatever. There's something to be said. And you're right. If we could somehow eliminate, the hacking and the intrusion, the web is a nice place to be when you think about it.
To me, the
Absolutely.
biggest dream or the best dream that could happen is that Linux took over in domination as far as over Windows, which is probably not going to happen, or at least not in our lifetimes. But the thing about it is, with this, now it's becoming, and my biggest concern, I think, for Linux is the more popular it gets, the bigger target on its back it's going to have, as we're seeing already. And I'm talking about, malware and stuff like that. Right now, you could still say, it's pretty secure. And yes, you've got a worldwide community to watch it, but it's that much more difficult if all of a sudden, and it's already starting. You see, there's been attacks that you would have never thought of before on Linux.
If there were laws, maybe this is a bit totalitarian or whatever, but like if there was something today on the news, Wells Fargo, didn't they get caught with customers scamming them or something? There was something on the news a while back. They signed them up for credit cards that they never wanted or something like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Wells Fargo is being fined $1 billion because of what they did or what the CEO wasn't aware. I'm like, no. That's peanuts to a company. No.
Absolutely.
Because they do it because they know they can buy their free. You and I can't. But if there were a law saying, okay, Wells Fargo, hackers, Equifax, all these people who, Facebook, if you get caught doing what you have mandatory jail sentence, and not the country club jail either.
Right.
Mandatory, but I'm worth $6 billion. So what? You go to jail for minimum a year next to a jail cell with a guy named Bubba, for a mandatory jail sentence for a year. You'll see the hacking rate go down like this because, if you got money and power now and justice for all, right?
Well, that or you offer them a boat tour with a couple Italian guys on a nice little yacht.
just have a read what Madhouse Jack.
Just kidding.
Just have a read what Madhouse Jack says. He makes a good point.
They know they can get away with it. So when when Wells Fargo or these other Wall Street guys, when they get in front of Congress, and the congressman or senator asks them a question, did you know? Well, I wasn't aware or I don't recall. You're the freaking CEO. How did you get that job? Did you get to that position by, I don't know, I don't recall, I didn't see? Oh, so you got the job by being an idiot. Did I have that job?
I don't know about you. I don't know about you, Toss, but I'm still waiting for my dividends from when all the banks got bailed out with the government money. It was our money, so I'm still waiting for my dividends to come. Did you get yours yet?
Yeah, I'll get my dividend. All right. Yeah. Years ago, I have a relative of mine. He was, this is back in the 70s. He told me a story. He was always a cash man. He didn't like credit card. Of course, there was no internet, but he was going to go on a trip to Vegas for the first time. But obviously, to rent a car to get a hotel, you needed a credit card. They wouldn't take cash, I guess, even then. It was hard.
Right.
So he's sitting having coffee with the friend. To his friend, we'll call his friend, Smitty or whatever. So Smitty, I have a problem. I'm going to Vegas Thursday or Friday. Today is Monday, and the bank won't give me a credit card. I have to wait a week or two to get to fill it out. So his friend, who was well-known, businessman, multimillionaire, don't worry, I'll take care of it. He walks down to the bank, talks to the bank manager. Of course, this billionaire is well-known. He says to the bank manager, you will give my friend so-and-so. He came in to get a bank card. You will personally approve the card today. If you don't, I will take all my money out of this bank and put it into my competitor's bank. The bank manager, no, we can do it. He got the card within 2 days. The funny part is that man, the rich guy, did not have his money in that bank. It was in the other bank, I heard. Because he was so well known. But again, it's a justice for all.
Oh yeah.
Oh God, it's but again, if these guys who do this or let it go or turn a blind eye, look this way, mandatory jail sentence, no problem.
Right. Yeah. Well, I've said that all along, not only for things like you're talking about, but even for let's bring it right down to the basics to a kid these days, because they see jails are so overloaded.
Right.
You could the person trying to correct a kid winds up in the jam with the police because you can't touch him. It's not like when we were raised, you were worried about getting your butt beat by your father or something, or even your mother for that matter, if you did something wrong. So there's no fear of repercussion for your actions. And when you take it up to the corporate level like this, it's how deep are your pockets, and how bad you're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
I want to jump back real quick to a comment that Joe Johnson made. He was talking about if I believe it was if Microsoft ever bought out Linux, he would go to BSD. I don't know that you'd be happy with that, but
they have not approved virtual hugging. So if you use BSD, you can't hug anybody. I don't know where that came from, but
I don't think anybody would allow Microsoft can't even buy Linux, surely. That's not possible, is it? Surely. I
Well,
mean, it's a free software.
To sell it off.
I'll be right
What's
back.
to stop it? But at the same token, you know, well, to me, I don't think they should have. It's now we're going to get. I don't want to go down the political avenue, but to me, I've always felt no foreign country should ever own a piece of our soil, like the same way maybe we shouldn't own anybody else's soil. You know, kind of that thing. That's kind of how I feel about Microsoft. You know, you want to let them in the door a little bit, but you don't let them own any of it.
That's a good point. It's a good point.
You know,
yeah, because there's a lot of land.
Well, harder to keep them out when there's money involved.
Yeah, true. But you know, we've all seen how passionate Richard Stallman is about free and open source. Anyway, so as long as he's around, I doubt whether that could ever happen.
Well, and that's the thing I've thought about. I mean, like all of us, there's two things that are for sure. Death and taxes is always the thing, as horrible as it sounds.
Yeah.
And, you know, unless there's somebody else that's up and coming, that's a strong belief as these people's are like Stallman or Linus Torvald, you know, that's why hopefully the community, while they are around, will grow so strong that, you know, those kind of things won't be a worry. So I don't know.
Look, I got no problem with Windows. I don't bash Windows. Windows is just what it is. But I mean, I run Linux. It was XP that drove me to Linux at the end of the day because it's slow startup times. You know, it gets to the point where it takes 5-10 minutes to start up on any computer, you know, going back in the day.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter how many tweaks you made to that thing on startup and all that.
Yeah.
It didn't make any difference. And when I discovered Linux and how fast it was just like a blessing in disguise.
Night and day. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
Well, I don't like Microsoft's business model now. Windows. I liked it. As a matter of fact, I loved when XP came out. You are right. The hardest thing about Windows back in those eras was, especially as XP was like a big jump in how heavy the system became too, because of the security that they built in and all that.
Yeah.
But you could bank on, if you had a hard drive issue or you had to do a reform or a reinstall or whatever, if you weren't on the phone with tech support and the computer was still under tech support qualification, you could bank I remember I spent 3-4 hours on the phone sometimes with trying to get everything reloaded and reinstalled. It's just a total nightmare. And even though Windows 10 now is considerably lighter, if you don't have, as an example, 1709 on there now, you load up the previous version, you've got a minimum of 2 hours to maybe 3 hours, depending on your hardware.
Yeah.
Anyway, of letting the system sit there and keep doing whatever it's doing.
Yeah.
So,
you know, Joe Johnson making me laugh. He says Microsoft will have Richard and Linus whacked to take over Linux. Okay, Joe Johnson. Okay, listen, I just had a talk with the heads of the 5 Linux families. I talked to Don Debian. I talked to Don Arch, Don Mate. It ain't gonna happen, okay?
Hey, that should be the title of your next video. You should do something like that as a parody. That's awesome.
Oh, the heads of the 5 Linux family?
Yeah.
We're gonna have the heads of the 5 Linux families. Don Debian will take over the territory in the UK. We'll have Don Arch, you know, Don Monte, Don Drysdale, Don Quixote, Don Juan, you know.
Really?
Come on into my grandparents' store. You think that salami is there just to eat? We use it to beat people who don't do what we tell them.
Right. You know, if they keep using Microsoft, you got to tell them, hey, you got to try Ubuntu. No, it's not a disease. Okay?
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, we should have famous spokespersons promote Linux. We could have Arnold Schwarzenegger. Oh, Ubuntu Mate is fantastic, you know. That would be something, you know. Have Sylvester Stallone, you know, he could promote, hey, you tried Arch, blah, 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 you know.
Well, see, now that goes back to, do you remember, I don't know if you ever saw Donnie Bosco when they were asking him, there's a segment in there, he says, what does it mean when they say forget about it? Well, it's how you use it. Okay, you're like, hey, Ubuntu Mate, forget about it.
Right, yeah.
Arch, forget about it. You know, so it's like forget about it, get rid of it. The other one, I love it. You know,
Right.
so
Yeah. It's like a universal word. It's like, oh, it was so cold. Yes, I couldn't leave the house. Forget about it. Or it could be positive. Oh, I was in the coffee shop. I met this girl. She was so pretty. Forget about it. She was the prettiest girl I ever saw. Yeah.
So it won't be. So it won't be get to the chop. It'll be get to the download. Will it? Get to the download.
Get to the download. Right. Yeah. Right. No, wait. Get to the Whopper at Burger King. Get to the Whopper. That would be something Arnold did a commercial for. Get to the Whopper. I just ate 10 of them. It's fantastic.
We're having a Linux overdose here.
I guess we are. Yeah. Welcome to the live stream, folks. This is normally a tech chat, but hey, it's a random chat night. It's Friday night, and I'm freezing my kernels off here. It's it's going to be 30 degrees here in Ohio in springtime. Oh man, forget about it. The weather sucks. Forget about it. Okay.
The weather sucks. Forget about it. Of course it does.
Oh man.
Start here.
Anybody got any questions in the chat? I mean, that kind of helps.
Yeah, let's see. You got to go. Oh, okay. Catch you next time. Thank you for stopping.
Well, I'm
If
actually.
anybody out there is watching this, say hello.
I just installed Markulu Linux Shift.
How's it look?
I'm just going to do a video on this one. I chose the Shift because it's directly based on Debian, not Ubuntu.
I tested the other one. Yeah,
you tested the other one, which is
cinnamon based.
Lindows.
That's it. That's the one I thought looked pretty cool. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See, the Lindows has WPS. Shift has LibreOffice.
Okay.
So I don't know why it's gone with two different ones on the two different OSs. I don't know, but yeah. But
that was actually that video for some reason on Mukulu. That was number one ranked video on my analytics of all the videos. Anthony Tucker likes Mukulu. Hey, there you go. Yeah, I didn't think that would really rank that high, but that was number one for like a long time. I was surprised. Yeah, go figure.
Well, Windows has Steam. Windows has Steam. Shift doesn't have Steam installed, so I don't know what his way of thinking is there. But I don't know if I can install it. I'll check it out.
Madhouse Jack says Euro American Truck Simulator. I don't play either.
I love both of them.
Okay,
they're good. It's a lot of fun. If you want a game that's not a shoot 'em up game or a typical zombie game, that kind of thing. You want something that's a little more true to form real life. Unless you turn into Zeb and you decide to just be a crazy run over everything and everybody, which that's fun too. But how many times have you played it? Well, you've done it yourself, Toss, with the driving game you did. How many times you get into a driving game and all of a sudden you forget about what the premise of the game is and you decide to just become some crazy driver running in and everything?
Oh yeah, that what's the game in Windows? Airborne, Asphalt 8 Airborne. That's like Need for Speed on steroids. It is so cool. The first time I downloaded it, and it's free, and you can buy extra points for cars. I was having fun. I was whacking cars left and right, and I was making fun. Yeah, that's right. Whack. Go ahead. Text some more. You've got mail, and whack this guy and keep texting and driving. One guy says he just pooped his pants when he first heard me say that, but I was just having fun with it.
Well, I think
go ahead.
I say half the fun to me of the trucker games is you can either go get a loan, which even in real life, my way of thinking is, I don't like to borrow anything, or you can take your time, earn some money, buy a truck, and then as you earn more money, you dress it up, you decide you want to trade it in, or like in my case, I bought another truck, tried to paint it up the same way, try to create a fleet of different model vehicles. It's a lot of fun. I mean, it's and it kind of challenges you, almost like real world, type thing.
Interesting.
So,
I'm waiting for Cubano Truck Simulator, man, because I want to buy the truck, I want to pop some ludes. Go driving with Ludes, In fact, I went to the other store day, Ludes, but somebody said, no, man, it's Lowe's, not Ludes. Okay, I do agree. Oh, well, but Yeah, I don't play a lot of games, but I mean, those of you who have Windows, check out Asphalt 8. I think it's one of the best games ever. Asphalt, it's very addicting. Asphalt 8 Air, but you can play online with other people, But it's pretty jacked. So check out Asphalt 8. I like it when you do these ramps. It reminds me of Knight Rider.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, as you're flying, you can like steer the flight of the car. It's ridiculous, but it's fun. So,
Well, and if you
Asphalt
like
8.
something that's a little more on the competitive side,
Yeah.
that's car related, is like well, when I was playing it on Windows, and I still have it in Steam, but I don't play in Windows anymore. Is Grid 2.
Grid.
I mean, to me, one of the things I'm a car guy. I love muscle cars and stuff, and the engine sounds and the burning, burnouts, and it's so realistic, and the drifting and all. It's a lot of fun if you like that kind of thing too. And if you've got you got good hardware, good graphics, man, you feel like you're right in there with it. I mean, physically in the car. It's a lot of fun. So
Yeah, it is. I used to love Need for Speed on the Xbox, and Burnout Revenge, I think it's called, is another one I used to play. And there's just something about just whacking people off the road, in jest. Hi, Spin Viking, joining us. But there's something to be said for that feeling of, what's the word, just letting it all out. Because look, every day how many people we see texting and driving, running red lights, not paying attention, just being stupid, tailgating. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, But in real life, you need to be careful. Obviously, in the game, it's a game. But yeah.
Have you ever played, and you're going to like this name, Mafia? That's a fun game, too.
I don't think I have.
Yeah, that's a fun. I had that
okay.
From the Xbox days.
Yeah.
And they've had 2 or 3 versions come out since. But the first one that I have is back in, like, I don't know if it's I don't want to say the 20s. It might be 30s and 40s.
Mm-hmm.
But the cars and as the era progresses, the cars get a little more modern and stuff too. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of the same thing. There's stories you go through. There's so many stories, and you could buy add-on packs for more stories. But what happens is after a while, you get tired of playing the story, and you just start shooting at people and running things down and robbing the gun store or whatever. It's doing crazy.
It's like a guilty pleasure. Yeah. Madhouse Jack says Need for Speed Hot Pursuit on Xbox 360. Awesome. Yeah, it was. My very first Need for Speed I played was on the PC back in the late 90s. And it was fun, but so silly. The cops were chasing me, and I would zig and zag and wreck a half a dozen cars, right? Yeah. And the way the game is set up, after these cars I get caught. So the cop comes up to me. He says, after I destroyed 6 cop cars, the cop would say, You're lucky I'm in a good mood. I'm only going to give you a ticket, a warning this time. It's ridiculous. I'll never forget that, But
well, in this Mafia game, when the cops are chasing you, it's like the Bowery Boys. I mean, they're all smacking into each other because they can't control their cars, and they're hanging out of the windows with their machine guns shooting at you. It's like, what cop would ever do that? Maybe they did back in the days. I don't know.
I think that's the point of a game, is just to enjoy it and have fun and laugh. But that first,
I do think that wouldn't necessarily happen in real life. So it kind of gives you a chance, kind of. Dream and be, like you said, let your hair down a little bit and do things you would never.
Yeah. Logan Graham likes Skyrim. Isn't that the one that was a running joke years ago? I was trying to wash my car, but I took an arrow to the knee or something. I guess it was from the game. Yeah. It was a running joke. I didn't quite get it. Somebody mentioned Skyrim. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Not really, but but yeah, those games. I have the original for the PC, Star Trek Starfleet Command. Somewhere it was like a role-playing game. It was pretty cool. I used to play that at night if I couldn't sleep, to help me fall asleep. But those Star Trek games are pretty cool. Still are in a way, but there's something about racing games that has like a universal appeal.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the ticker news on the top. It says AT&T and Verizon under investigation for collusion to lock in customers. No, really?
What do you think? Yeah, I like that.
That's not good.
Well, that happens everywhere. That happened here too with our telcos. With the new fast internet they've been putting around Australia, and it's turned out to be the biggest fizzer of all time. And they were actually telling people they're going to get these sorts of speeds and charging them this much money, and they weren't supposed to be charging any more than what you're currently on. And they were taken to court. But, you know, once again, probably fined the amount of money that's probably 5% of what they earned from it.
Well, right now, the net neutrality thing here, the only thing that's still keeping that in place, even though on the federal level it was let go, are the states, the individual states. Our state right now is maintaining it, which I'm glad, you know, and I know they're still trying to overturn the federal, you know, undoing of it. But because honestly, that's exactly what they're going to do is you may have been used to a certain speed. Now all of a sudden you're going to see your speed gets throttled back, and they're going to say, well, if you want this speed, you could pay a little bit extra. You know, it's not a good thing. So, but at least some of these states, because usually it's the other way around. The federal usually always supersedes the states, but somewhere along the line with this, the states are able to, I guess, combat it, if you want to call it, or at least buck their change on the federal level, which is, you know, and not go along with it. So I'm glad for that much. It's not very often where you have something that goes against the grain of what you believe, and there's other government entities supporting it, you know, what you want to keep. So
the problem with ours is they're rolling out the new internet wires and whatever, but the problem is the wire that goes from the main box to your house is copper. So you ain't going to change much speed by having copper with that distance, because copper's slow. So they're not changing much up at all. I think they actually were forced to pay back people some money from what they said that they should be paying. I think they've offered people some money back. So I don't know.
Colin, do you have fiber optics coming to your area at all? I know we're getting.
No, I think it's fiber optics they're putting down, I think. I'd have to probably ask Backyard Tech. He would know. He's right into that. But
I'm subscribed to his YouTube channel, actually, Backyard.
Yeah, he would know. He's right into it. But I don't know if it's fiber optic. All I know is it's called NBN, National Broadband Network. It could be fiber optics. But if fiber optics is going to the junction, but from the junction to your house is copper, that's just
doesn't matter.
Absolutely, yeah. So
I know Google's coming out with some kind of a service in the States here that's been where I've heard really, really good things about it for where it has gone. And I think
they've been testing it. Yeah, Google Fiber. I heard it's really fast.
Yeah.
The only downside here is here in Kentucky that AT&T is trying to block that service.
Really?
Yeah, evidently so. From what I've been reading, they're trying to bring it here to where I live, but it's proving a very deep.
But that's happening all over. A lot of these bigger companies are trying to block competitors, and that's where you get into antitrust stuff too. If they, it's just so.
And that's just not cool.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Yeah, we've got a Spectrum right now at my house, and we have their 300 megabyte plan and that's perfectly fine for what I do. So
that's still quite quick compared to,
fastest.
Yeah, that's quick to compare to most. Yeah.
How much? What's your plan? 300 megabytes.
300 megabytes through Spectrum. Yeah, which used to be Time Warner, but and then my dad pays like $200 a month for that. I think, or $200 a year. I'm not sure. But yeah, it's not cheap, but it's their top tier plan right now where we are.
All of these companies could give you gigabytes of speed if they wanted, and charge a lot less money, and still make a ton of money with it.
Right.
Unfortunately, their gig plan is not in my area yet. But
yeah, that's a bit like they could have given us a Samsung Galaxy 9 or an iPhone 9 or whatever it is, probably 10 years ago. But no, let's just milk it out as long as we can, which is what they do.
Yeah, not everyone can afford the top tier stuff, but I'm lucky to have a family who can support that. But
it's all planned. I mean, Apple got caught with software slowing down their phones on the battery or draining their batteries faster or something, and it wasn't necessary. You know,
it's not great, but
it's
what it is. Why do they need to do that? They sell their product sells anyway. So I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, they do that. We upgraded to 8s, my wife and I, and honestly, the biggest complaints that we have with these right now, we're not happy with, is you could have the phone literally like this, and people go, "I can't understand what you're saying." And I've had it on the other end because it sounds muffled or like you're fading out.
Yeah.
So you have to either have it the right way. I don't know if there's something related to the back because my wife tends to do this, and I notice every once in a while if I have my finger back there, I'll get that same complaint. Or if it's, they do an update to get laggy or whatever. But that's exactly what happened. Our iPhone 6s started acting really slow, and we finally said, well, they always say, oh, well, you go to the your store where they handle these, and they'll say, well, it is 2 years old and it's getting to be about that time. I said, for friggin' $700, 2 years, come on.
It sounds like maybe you downloaded software and update to improve it, and it got worse.
Well, they were pushing a ton of updates toward that time too, which was really bizarre. And even these, it's like they badger you to death if there's an update and you don't want to do it. And you look at it and it'll say, "Oh, it's a fix for iPhone 10." Well, this isn't a 10, but it'll badger you to do it.
Yeah.
Well, and all of a sudden it'll say, "Well, there's a couple of security fixes in there." Really,
Well,
I've stuck with Android. It just seems like in the long run less, but how do you know anymore, really? I mean,
right.
I got Lineage OS on mine.
Yeah, it's not available from HTC, or else I would have tried that. Do you like it, Lilith? You like it, Colin?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I quite like it.
Can you still get the apps that you want?
Yeah, because when you install it, you download the image, and then you once you got the image, you put that on. But you got to have the Google apps as well. But I did hear that the Google apps are not supporting the Lineage OS moving forward since the last one that they did. So so if you've got an old image, which is what I've got, you'll be okay. But moving forward, then the only option you would have then is F-Droid. Because I've done a bit of research on this. You can side load a lot of things, but whether you can get everything you need, like YouTube and all that, I don't know.
Well,
which phone do you have, Colin?
Sorry, it's Galaxy S5 at the moment.
Got it. Okay.
And I keep my phones for as long as I can.
Yeah. My dad, and it was great.
The primary reason I went to this, and my wife, well, actually, there were two reasons. But the first and foremost was the convenience of FaceTime, because my father, being up in years too, which you can relate, Carmine, is to, I never thought he would have had a piece of electronics in front of him. He got himself an iPad that he bought from one of his neighbors, and so he could see the kids, see us, whatever.
That's good.
That's probably the first thing. And then the other thing for me is I tend to take photos for things I do in my business, and the camera on here is really phenomenal. But other than that, I probably wouldn't be on it. I would go back to Android.
Yeah, I mean, that's a little bit more freedom with the Android. Yeah. Plus, I can plug it into Linux, no problem. I had an iPhone once; it would not work in Linux. Period. Can I get it hooked up or sync?
Does.
Huh? MX-17? Oh, it does really. Okay.
Yeah, Dolphin put a.
Does that work, Joe?
It does. Wow. I tried it. Yep. I tried it. I actually, when I had MX-17, on the laptop, and I'm going to put it back on there. I actually tried it, and it recognized the file system. Where if I do it on my PC here on Mate, it'll recognize the phone, but it won't recognize the file system. So
which phone you got?
An installer in there.
Which iPhone you got?
I've got the iPhone 8S.
So it works with that as well. That's
wow. Yeah, and I don't. The only reason I didn't go to I shouldn't say the only reason. One of the reasons I didn't go to 10, the iPhone 10, was number one, the cost, but the other thing too is I don't like the facial recognition stuff.
Yeah, I didn't like that either. You see, Joe, I went with the 8 Plus as well because, for one thing, the cost was smaller, as well as the. I just prefer that.
It's still not cheap. It's an $800 phone.
Right, I know, but it was just a better end of the.
Well, being able to lock or unlock your phone, that started years ago. But I'm like, there's a downfall, because what if you set your phone just to unlock by your face? But what if you got to a bar fight and your face is like, I swear it's me, open up the phone. Just a thought, Colin.
This is going to sound a little more, but I've said the same thing, Carmen. I said, God forbid, like I have I did do the thumb, and it's hit or miss on this. My iPhone 6 never had a problem. This one's been hit or miss. And they said, what happens? I have cut myself, and it's like you can't get it to recognize it unless you sit there. You got to call 911 just to open it because you got a cut on your finger. Come on.
Yeah. Well, my HTC has it on the back. I can show you here real quick. But I've never used this fingerprints. I never used it. I use like a passcode. You know what I mean? Like a
and that's what I have on here too.
I just use the pattern. All I use is the pattern. That's what I like best.
Pattern, yeah. I use that. So I used to use that, but I try to use both. Like depends what kind of mood I'm in, But I don't use the facial stuff. Not that I get into bar fights or anything, What, you use Linux?
Well, that even proved they had a couple of twins with the phones to see how it would recognize, and one twin could open up his other twin's phone because they look the same.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So yeah,
I don't know.
Interesting.
I just every now and then when you use the pattern, you got to wipe your phone so people can't go, oh yeah, I can see the pattern.
Right. Or if you wear gloves like in wintertime, it may not work. You gotta really take your glove off, and
we don't get that cold of winters over here, Toss, which is fortunate.
Oh, you don't? Okay, cool. Here it gets pretty cold, like below zero sometimes, wind chill factor.
Yeah. We're lucky if we get down to zero in Perth, Australia. We've had -1 or 2. But I see some people on the Destination Linux Telegram group, they got like 2 degrees Fahrenheit, which is like minus something.
Centigrade. No, it's in the wintertime, it can get brutal wind chill. It can get negative Fahrenheit, -0 or below 0. It just depends,
And I can't function in the cold. My body just hates it.
Colin, when I was getting married, our bridal shower was the coldest day in history in Chicago. No exaggeration, 80 below 0.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I didn't think you could get that cold, and it did. It was like the frozen tundra. I think there were 90-something people invited, and only 2 didn't make it, which was even more shocking.
Wow.
And my in-laws, we both had Ford LTDs. I had a 77, they had a 78. My car was parked outside in the back of the apartment building. I lifted the hood, and I put quilts over the engine and stuff and around the wheel wells, lowered the hood down, and I had cars on each side of me. My in-laws' car was in the garage, and theirs wouldn't start, and mine did. Barely, but it did. So, but
that's crazy.
This year we had 30 below 0 days here, and that was before wind chills. So.
No, I couldn't deal with that. I don't think I could deal with that, really.
Yeah, there was a comedian once. He says, in the wintertime, my car talks to me. He's like, you put the key in to start in the cold weather. My car says, please don't start me. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. Oh, I forget that joke. Oh, God.
Well, I'll tell you one of the best investments I ever made. I had a 22-foot crew cab pickup truck, so it never fit in my garage. It had a big V10 engine in it, and it didn't come with an engine block heater. You get the inline heater in the hose, or you do the block. I did the block. Put one in. I plugged that thing in outside. It was still slow starting, but it was a lot faster starting than it used to be. And I ran a little bit thinner oil in it and stuff too, and that made a huge difference. But it's like you don't have an electric blanket on your bed at night. It's kind of the same thing, when you think about it.
Wintertime, I've noticed, and years ago, the first time I tried Mobil 1 full synthetic oil, in the wintertime, my car started up a lot more smoother, and it took less time to warm up. And I'm a big fan, especially wintertime, of full synthetic. Even synthetic blends okay, but full synthetic and a good battery, that thing's been tested how many degrees below 0? It's crazy.
All right, there we go.
Well, most of the oils nowadays, I think, are synthetic blends anyway. But you're right. I remember even back 1980s, because that's when my father-in-law first started using it. When he had a big crew cab with a 460 in it, and he put it in that, and it was like $45 for a case of oil. you know, to be able to do an oil change on it, or half case, I should say, to do whatever you needed to do the oil change. But you only had to do it once a year.
Right.
You know,
well, you know, I mean, I don't know. Probably full synthetic is fine to use year round. I'm sure it is, but you can't really tell in the summertime because the car doesn't need time to warm up. It's summer.
Right.
But in the wintertime, full synthetic and a good battery, car will start like that. It's amazing, you know, what full synthetic does. But that's what they use in the space shuttle, or they used to, and car racing, real car, you know, races. So it has to be a reason why they only use that. In fact, a lot of newer cars today only recommend full synthetic. You know.
Yeah.
Shane Milton says he only uses full synthetic. Okay, Shane.
That, you know, oils never really supposedly break down; they just get dirty. But the synthetics were supposed to protect everything better. It's the synthetics itself does, you know, coats better or whatever is what I've always understood. I don't know if I'm right.
Right. Yeah, they've done tests. I've seen even guys on YouTube purposely try to freeze two brands of oil. One is conventional, one is full synthetic, like -20 outside, and he pours it, and you can tell that the full synthetic is flowing easier, you know. So, I mean, that's not a scientific test, we'll say, but there's a one channel. He's like a chemist or something, and he goes into more detail. He has a chart. It's a little bit beyond me, but I think what he was trying to say is because of the properties of the synthetic materials, you know, it makes your car last longer, less breakdown, and stuff like that, less prone to like temperature extremes. But believing is feeling it. In the wintertime years ago, my first car to high school, I felt it in the wintertime. Full synthetic is the way to go. So,
yeah, I don't think it gets as dirty either. Even
could
after
be.
heater,
Yeah.
I don't think it gets as dirty.
No, that's what
my
I've heard.
father-in-law taking the oil out of his truck, and it looked almost as clean as when he put it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And I believe it probably gets around a lot more too. I think they had a magnetic oil they brought out, which was meant to stick in your bores and all that. So, you know, on that first initial startup, you've got oil already there, you know. So that was one of the advantages of that. So
I will
less
say
wear and
this.
tear.
Do you remember this too, Toss? Years ago, I remember my father, and I don't know if you could still get it anymore. When we would do oil changes, one of the quarts was not the same oil we would put in. We'd put Bardol in there.
I don't know that. Okay.
And that stuff, I swear to God, you know, any car will burn some level of the oil a little bit, or it'll be down a little bit.
Yeah.
You put that stuff in there, it never seemed to do it. And I know he still, to some level, uses Marvel Mystery Oil in there too. He puts it.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, but the Bardol, I think it was spelled Bardahl or something like that. I think is how it was spelled, because I remember him having, when he showed me as I started working on the cars, or if he wanted an oil change, he'd have me do it in the garage or out in the back, and he'd say, "Here's the regular oil." He says, "And you put one quart instead of putting the last quart in of the oil, you put this in." And that stuff, oh my God, we never had any engine problems at all with running that stuff.
I used to remember commercials for Slick 50.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know how real they were, how true, but it seemed a little bit far fetched.
Yeah.
You know, Slick 50. You know,
Yeah,
they would drain the engine and, you know, and then run it without oil at all. I'm like, really? I don't think so, you know.
Advertisements all real, aren't they? Advertising's all real, isn't it?
Only for food.
Well, it's like the internet. Everything's there, you can believe.
Yeah. Joe Johnson says garbage. I never tried Slick 50, and maybe it was a former full synthetic. I don't know.
STP oil treatment, which was mentioned in there too by Spin Viking, that always actually was a popular one too, even when I was growing up. So,
Stephen Anderson says
popular in the racing days, like NASCAR with Richard Petty and all them too. So
yeah. Stephen was just talking about typing in about Ubuntu Mate, I think, Stephen. Okay. Surprised 600 megabytes of desktop, 1.4 gigabytes playing HD video. Yeah, that's not bad. Yeah. Nice.
let me see what mine's pulling here. it seems like the more RAM you have, the more it'll tend to pull sometimes too. Like now I'm showing, I opened up Stacer and it says 5.4 gigs running, and I've got, I've got the Hangouts going, and I have 5 tabs still open on another browser. I think it's Chromium. Yeah, it's Chromium that's open. And one of them obviously is watching us on there. So,
right.
And the other one is, unfortunately, I should probably close it, is Facebook. I had that open, and I probably should close it.
Are you running multiple monitors, Joe?
And I have 2 monitors going.
That'll do it.
But on 16 gigs of RAM, in the grand scheme,
it's barely chugging. Right, it's not. Yeah.
I don't even feel it.
Well, Stephen Anderson hasn't installed 1604, so close to 1804. Wouldn't he be better off? Probably 1804 seems to look like it's a much better deal at the moment, don't you think?
Yeah, but there's still going to be some things, from what I understand, with 1804 where you should still wait a little bit. I mean, it's not like it's when it gets.
Okay, true. Yeah, you're probably right.
But it's like anything else. It's like buying a car. Not everything. They're not going to have everything released with it right away. Yeah, but you still could run it. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
I was just looking at some of the. I had Mate on here, but I installed the Mark Ulu Linux over the top of it. I'm going to take a look at the 1804 soon, but I had they've got so much in that software boutique. I mean, they've even got Etcher in there. Yep. You don't have to go anywhere. Okay. Yeah, they've got Etcher in there as well, which is very surprising. But they've got a lot of stuff in that software boutique. Very handy.
Yes, they do. Very newbie friendly.
It is
just very user friendly. Period. And I mentioned when I did the interview with Alan Pope, I said, I know Martin Wimpress's Ubuntu Mate, the panel, the 7 different panel changing themes, I said was brilliant. Alan agreed. And you can make it look any way you want to. You can jazz it up if you want to, as it were. So it's not plain vanilla,
Control center is fabulous too.
Yeah, it's just everything fits the way it when you look at it, that should be there, or that should look like that, or whatever. It just works. Yeah. It's not
if you like using keyboard commands, that's the way to go too. I mean, whatever you're comfortable with, it'll work. I mean, I love using the Windows, or super key.
Yes.
Right away to open stuff up, and it's just a couple of, all you have to do is maybe hit 1 or 2 buttons to start with, and boom, it's right there. I mean, it's just quick. Your workflow is just quick with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was actually I uploaded a video of Q4OS, and I was changing some of the desktop environments, and I had to go search for stuff. My goodness. Once you get used to just hitting that super key in GNOME, because I'm running 1804 GNOME at the moment, that's what I'm on now. It's just, hit the super key, start searching, and you find your program, and it finds it very quickly. But when I have to start searching through menus, oh boy, do I look like a newbie. I'm terrible.
It's kind of funny when you get used to using a certain, like we just said, you hit the super key, you bring up, the menu. I don't ever scroll to search for anything anymore. I just start typing what I want, and it's and then it goes. It's like
it's such a great workflow, isn't it? I must say.
Yeah, and then the other thing I did too on the right side of the taskbar, if I have certain things I want to open, like I keep Telegram, I set that to boot up with it when the computer starts, whatever. But I put Pulse Audio instead of going to the the audio control, the little speaker everybody's used to seeing, and then all you see is that little slide bar, and then you got to right click to bring up Pulse Audio. I just added Pulse Audio to the taskbar. A lot of people, I think, don't think to even do that, or the Bluetooth. I like to have the Bluetooth on all the time or whatever. So it just works.
Bluetooth, I find Bluetooth. Does anybody ever have success sending pictures from Bluetooth to? I mean, I don't normally do it much, but I mean, I'm always curious when I install a desktop that's got Bluetooth running, and I try to send a picture from the Galaxy, it never works. In most cases, it doesn't.
Dropbox? Is that what you're talking about, Colin?
No, Bluetooth. Just standard Bluetooth.
Just send it to like a folder on your desktop or whatever.
Yeah,
I've never tried that. I know what you mean. I mean, I can stream music is fine,
yeah,
but I haven't tried that.
But you still, you got to use the Bluetooth to be able to send. Like I send from here, I have the Dropbox app and I have Kaji Dropbox in here, but I still had to pair the phone to the Bluetooth and boom, and I just sent it in Dropbox and I watched the notification pop up as the photos are being loaded.
yeah, right.
So it does. It seems to work for me
That's
way.
Dropbox,
And also
though.
for my headset, I bought the headset that I had. I mean, it's just
Yeah. No, headsets work. Well,
Yeah.
one wasn't working for me, but I haven't tried it. Actually, this one is a Bluetooth headset, but I've got so used to having the cord because it wasn't working with some of the Bluetooth. So, I think Bluetooth is getting there, but I think it's still just a bit behind.
It could be.
There's some things that seem to be a little hit or miss on Mate with
Yeah.
that, but it's for the most part, it's been more hits. It's only been once or twice I've had an issue with it, but it seems to work really well. And I know on MX-17 it worked phenomenal too. So
nice.
Yeah.
There's I wanted to talk about something just slightly off topic in Linux, but apparently I just got word of this a day or two ago. But YouTube has been testing something new to try and help users get not demonetized as much. But they've been testing a program where this is one of the creators' videos or something, creators inside or whatever they call it. But they were testing some YouTubers self-policy, self-policing. Like as they say I was going to upload a video, they would ask me questions. The questions would be, is this safe for kids? Does this contain mature content? Does it contain language that might be offensive to blah, blah, blah? I mean, so by answering those questions, YouTube would tell, should they monetize your video or not monetize or delete your video or not show it or whatever. But they've been testing it since last month, I think. And I thought about that. Now, you could lie, but the problem is YouTube will catch it. And if there's a pattern of lying, you just hurt yourself, right?
That's right.
But I was looking at, I'll have to do a video, but I was looking at the questions, and the questions weren't that unfair. Does your YouTube contain foul language? Does your video contain, something that might be offensive to? I mean, it makes sense. It wasn't like they were, sneaking into your privacy, as it were. But I thought the questions made sense, and maybe that might be a way for YouTube to somehow fix itself, because there are a lot of videos, a lot of YouTubers' videos being demonetized. My dad's teaser trailer, The Cross and the Star, The Cross of David, Star of Jesus, that was demonetized. Like, really? But it's religion. So the so the Autobot, that's what I like to call it, the Autobot, it has to be careful, But
well, you know how that goes. No matter what you post, there's always somebody with that type of thing is going to get offended somewhere, somehow, maybe.
Right. So, but that's something new they've been trying out, and I just wondered what your guys' opinion was.
Well, forgive me for saying so, but we know. I understand the premise of that, but an atheist might not like it.
Right.
So that's what I mean. They might find that, well, I don't want to see this, kind of thing, and all they got to do is complain or whatever.
Well, I think if it helps the smaller YouTuber become monetized, they are then making that person responsible for what they're uploading. So if they get caught out because they've been lying, then they're only responsible for themselves. So they've got no one else. They've got no one else to blame but themselves.
Right.
So if YouTube says you're demonetized, then they cannot complain because they're the ones who are responsible for it.
Well, the problem is if they lied, I would venture to think you wouldn't just get demonetized. They'd probably boot you.
Oh, maybe. Ban you for a certain time, maybe.
Yeah.
So that to me sounds like it makes a bit of sense, really, at the end of the day. I mean, that's fair for everybody, I would reckon. So if you've got video that's got swearing in it, which people like to do, then, maybe they can put a warning or something on there so when people go. So YouTube themselves do that.
Yeah.
From what's been selected upon uploading. So it sounds fair.
Right. You would think a disclaimer would at least give you a little bit of a pass. It depends on the level of your,
Yeah,
vulgarity. I mean,
yeah.
some people get really bad, but
Right. Like for example, like there's some videos where like for example, I installed my washer and it came with the cheap drain hose, flexible Lego toy thing, and the thing flew off during the spin cycle and gave me a shower. And I was like, what the bleep? Okay, well, how often did you say that word? Was it once or twice? Was it because of you making fun of someone? Or in this case, I'm making fun of myself, you know. But I can see what you could put a disclaimer where somebody says that word, but it's not offensive. You know what I mean? Like it's something we can relate to. You know. So I mean, I don't know how far that experiment's gonna go. Will it really solve anything? But I think it made sense. I think it's a step in the right direction. There's a popular YouTuber. I won't mention her name, but I guess she's an atheist and I guess a lot of people didn't like what she said and wanted her, dead. So she made a YouTube video joke about some of the comments she received, and I gotta tell you, she's got a gift for making fun of people who make fun of her, and thus making me laugh, which
yeah.
is a gift. Ironically, to make people laugh, I think is a gift, and she just made me laugh. So I had to write the comments, I'm a Christian, but you made me laugh. So thank you. And I had some nice response. You're the nicest non-believer Christian or Christian, nicest comments we've ever had from Christians or whatever. And I was like, she made me laugh. She wasn't offending me or Christians personally. I mean, my take was if you're a Christian, believe in God or whatever, and you wish somebody dead, that's not human, like that's not Christian like anyway, right? So who's the worst person, right? But anyway, she made me laugh, but she also was saying that because of her content, which is a little bit adultish, almost all her videos are demonetized, almost all of them. She's relying on Patreon, to help keep her channel going. But I get it. I understood. She made a choice or doesn't believe, and that's fine. But then people ask, well, what does the Bible say about atheists or this and that? I'm not a priest or nothing. And I wrote, well, you are judged not by words alone, but by actions, as it were. So that was my answer, But, it's, yeah, there was probably a lot of cuss words in that, but there was one person made a comment and that person's spelling was all off. She says, first of all, if you're going to make fun of me, learn how to spell or something like that. It just made me laugh. So I said, thank you. You made me laugh. And I did not take offense. Now, if she would have said, you Catholics are awful, you're this and that, that's a different story. But it was nothing like that. It was just making fun of comments that just didn't quite make sense.
Well, would it get to the point where YouTube might say, well, you log into adult, you log in with your Google account or whatever it is into an adult YouTube site,
Right.
and that way that has to be, you take responsibility for logging into that site. That way they keep the general YouTube cleaner for kids and all that as well. So I mean, that could be another option they could do. To keep it clean for the young ones. I'm not sure, but obviously they're trying to do things like that.
Well, I mean, YouTube probably starting a couple years ago, they went into panic mode. The advertisers, they were going to potentially lose billions of dollars in ad revenue, which part of it belongs to us as content creators. So they had to do something. Maybe they went overboard to try and fix it. Now the ads are coming back. The ad sense is coming back. But I guess it's human nature. When you're shocked with something and don't know what to do, you'll do anything to, have it fixed. It's not quite there yet. But I get it that they had to do something, and they should have been a little bit more open and communicative, transparent. Why are only Linux videos being demonetized? Well, that's not entirely true. I don't think. It's just the Autobots, they pick on certain words or phrases, and that's it. It's not monetized.
But don't you think that it seems almost like all this issue and demonetization with YouTube, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you would know, you have a regular channel here as opposed to I.
Yeah.
When Google took it over, it almost seems to me like that's when I started hearing more of the, complaining or. And I
When
don't
did
want
Google
to, I
take
don't want to
over?
use the word
You
loosely.
remember what year it was? I don't remember. When did they take over?
It's been what, the last 2 or 3 years is all, isn't it?
I don't
It
know.
doesn't seem like it was all that long.
Yeah. Well,
See, it's
YouTube was started back in 05.
Maybe complaining was the right word. I was just say more of the people bringing
Yeah.
attention to it.
I think the downfall, as it were, or the problems or the challenge started when about 3-4 years ago, YouTube opened partnership monetization to everybody. You remember that? And it
Yeah.
sounded like a great opportunity, a great idea, but then it opened up the floodgates to anybody who wanted to make a quick, cheap dollar by lying, stealing, and not by following guidelines. And that was the beginning of the downfall, because I started my channel in 2010, and it became self-sufficient, meaning it covered itself, paid the internet bill and all that. It took a few years. I think it was 2013 where I was getting enough where it paid for itself. But after that, it may have been a year or two later when this whole everybody is a partner, you have a chance to make. That's when I started noticing the drop in AdSense revenue, because it also opened, like I said, it sounded like a great idea in theory, but then you open up the floodgates to people reposting other people's videos and making money off of that, or these react videos or whatever, girls showing their, to try to make $1. And but YouTube got caught with their pants down, as it were. I hate to use that analogy. And they panicked. They had to fix it. Now, I'm not defending YouTube, because I think they could have been a little more. I guess the keyword, Casey Neistat, he's got millions of people watch. He says, I think it was him who said, YouTube should have been a little more transparent, more communication, saying, look, this is why we're doing this.
Yeah,
We're
exactly.
sorry, but we need to fix it now, because if we don't, no one's going to make money.
Well, wasn't
Absolutely.
YouTube reasoning, though, supposedly because some of the big advertisers were pulling out because their advertisements were showing up on some of those less than desirable channels?
Right,
Does it come down to, could YouTube have done something to control where those ads did show up?
And maybe that's what they're
I mean,
experimenting now, right? Yeah.
How smart does their
Yeah.
technology or algorithms have to be, though, to determine what's a good video and what isn't? It's kind of, in fairness to them, maybe that, but you're right. They weren't being transparent, because it seemed like after that pulled back, they were just trying to make up money losses any way they could. And the only way they could do it was start nailing the content providers.
Yeah.
And that's where their algorithms went over the top as well. So I think that's what happened as well, I think, in that.
Because you know how it goes is, and I won't say the word, but S rolls downhill, and so it's just, it's not like it's not a fixable thing.
It's a challenge, and I think YouTube doesn't want to lose YouTubers, content creators, because that's how they make their money. So it's not like they're doing this on purpose, even though it seems that way. But it's, since last year before, it's been a great time for content consumers, people who don't do this, people who don't want to watch TV or the trash on the news, want to join on YouTube to catch up what's up with technology or cooking or whatever, hobbies, and they're pretty much watching the content for free. So for content consumers, I think it's dynamite. For the creators who are also trying to adjust, and there are many YouTubers who say, it's kind of like, doing something, being used to a certain level of income to maintain a channel. Now you're doing the same amount of work, and now it's gone, or it's been cut by 90%. And it's not your fault. Now, some YouTubers, they deserve to get cut. I mean, some of the stuff I was seeing, especially during the 2016 election, how is this person making this? This is trash talk,
right?
But it affected everybody. So yeah,
it kind of goes in order what you're saying a little bit here. But I have a comment about that. He said, some speech is not for kids. YouTube it's an open platform the kids can watch.
Yeah.
So I think YouTube is doing a good job with the impossible situation. Now, that being said, back up a little bit. First of all, I know there's parent controls in YouTube, but it comes down to these kids having access to an account. And there's been plenty of websites or plenty of platforms you go into that unless you can, your parent allows you or signs you into something, or if a parent isn't, it still comes back to parenting in this case, I think, where if a kid is given free reign for a computer and can lie and log in and, about his age or whatever, there are a lot of sites that you have to claim your age.
Yes.
In order to get into these particular sites. So that's where a parent needs to have control on what their kids are doing that way. So if YouTube suddenly, and I thought they do have a kids level platform, but where they had, if you're going to have a 13-year-old kid in your house or younger that's going to be on YouTube, then it's up to the parent to turn around and sign them in on the kid platform with an age disclaimer and all that, so they can't get into the other one and see it. I don't think that's impossible to do, but what do I know?
But I think that's where phones have sort of come in and ruined that, Joe, because you've got a phone that's logged in to Gmail or whatever, because that's how you start your phone up. I don't know about over in America, but here you need a Gmail for your Galaxy phone, right?
Yep.
So you're already logged into everything. So the kid gets your phone, goes, searching on YouTube, whatever. I mean, the devices are the ones that are giving complete access to everything, isn't it?
But
because
it still comes back to the same thing, though. If your kid has his own phone and his own account set up, and it's set up for age appropriate, that's going to be all he should be able to. He should, in theory, be able to see. But like you said, if he's picking up his parents' phone, then yes, he's going to be able to do that. So that still comes back to the parent.
Yeah.
We can't blame everything on parents, but when it comes to this stuff, that's where I think, it does fall back on them, because that's a controllable situation. Kids not going to be able to go and buy an $800 phone at 13 years old.
No, but I don't think a lot of parents understand that, they've got a phone that's logged in and they're throwing their device at the kid, just leave me alone, be quiet, and just, go searching on the phone or whatever. So, they've even racked up thousands of dollars, I've heard on some stories.
Yes. Yeah.
On phones,
my
right?
daughter, tonight too, you go into these restaurants now, the waitresses are getting away from, because it's the business model of the companies, that you don't necessarily have to get a check from them anymore. What it is everything's done by this electronic device sitting on the table. You order what you want, you pay from there what you want. And in the meantime, oh, by the way, we've got these games on here, they're $1.99. Well,
right.
You can't get into them unless you pay them, but you still could see enough. And she says, my grandson got a hold of it, and that's all he was doing. And it kept him quiet. I said, and she doesn't like that. She's been like, these kids got too much electronics in front of them, so we read books to them and all that stuff, but it's still there. It is getting harder and harder to control that way. But I still think if it's in your household and you have these devices, you have to have some level of control. I mean, even your device, and I've had Android and I've had the Apple devices, and all of them have had some sort of parenting controls on here that you could put on there.
Yes.
But I think some of it comes back to, there are some, let's face it, there are some parents or people that have these that just don't want to go through the hassle.
But it's not transparent though, Joe, because you start your phone, you start your phone up and it started. I mean, these big companies should be responsible for this sort of thing. I honestly believe they just want everybody to have open slather to everything, because you start your phone up. The first thing that should say is, do you want parental thing, blah, 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 how old is the kid, this and that. It doesn't throw it at you, and people don't think about it, right? I mean, so there should be more responsibility on these people who make these devices to have that in place.
Well, you know what the other big problem with these are? Okay, you've got a lock on the phone, right, to get into it. And specifically, I don't know if I could bring it up on the Apple. Anyway, but you can't get in. If you play with it enough, guess what pops up? There's the passcode that you have to enter. But look what's down here, emergency or cancel.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is you keep the phone locked, so your kid can't get in it. Your kid hits the emergency button and starts calling 911. So what do? To avoid having the non-emergency numbers or a non-emergency situation being called to the emergency police or whatever you need, because you could get cited for that, you take the lock off.
Yeah.
You know, so
yeah.
You know, and the
probably
reason that we have it that way is
right.
because there's no keypad anymore. There's no actual physical push button keypad anymore. So this is, you know, it's like what I was ever saying before. If God forbid you're in an accident, you're bleeding, well, you still should at least have the option to get to emergency, whether it's through voice or whatever, and that's why it's there. But then it creates another problem.
Well, it just goes to show that
it's a vicious circle, you know.
Unless the kid understands what the emergency button's for, they probably shouldn't even have a device in their hand.
Exactly. But see, in today's world, I mean, my grandson's under 4 years old, and my granddaughter right now doesn't seem to have a big interest in it. But that kid at 1 year old knew how to swipe the phone.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's not because he was taught by his mother.
No, they probably see kids. They probably see other kids, you know, visiting or whatever, playing with it. I mean, it's a busy world we live in. You know,
the very interesting.
Parents are constantly working. And they're trying to look after their kids, and they're tired, and just pass it on. It's the way the world's become. I mean, when I was growing up, my mum never worked. Only my dad worked. My mum was at home all the time. We did something wrong, we're in trouble. But these days, both parents are working. It makes it hard for everybody. People are tired.
Right.
You know.
Sure.
I think it's. It's the way the world's gone.
I think about when we were kids growing up, the most creepy thing you saw on TV was a show called Creature Features, and it had Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff or whatever, and it really wasn't anything even remotely close to what you have today. And the most risque thing you had was Love American Style, if you remember that program. You know, and that still didn't even touch what you have today. So even as a parent in that sense, to try, on behalf of parents, it's almost impossible to protect them from seeing things you don't want them to see or hearing things you don't want them to hear. And, because that's the way the world is. That's what everybody likes now, is desensitized. What do I say?
Yeah,
desensitized. Desensitized to everything. Yeah.
It's all on TV. I mean, they can watch late night TV. I don't know about over in America, but here, late night TV, there's swearing and everything on TV.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. They have movies with swearing in it, smoking in it still, probably,
Well, there's a show here that it's from Canada, and I absolutely love it. And my grandson loved it. And we started watching the first 3 seasons. It's called, of all things, Highway Through Hell. And basically what it is up in the mountainous area of Canada, the Coquihalla Highway and all that stuff, and they show these trucks that run off, and there's devastating accidents. They don't ever show anybody actually, there's been deaths on there, where they don't show any of that gore, but they would bleep out any of the language the first 3 seasons. And all of a sudden I'm sitting there with my 3.5-year-old grandson, and next thing you know, you hear the F-bomb getting dropped. It's like, whoa, when did they think all of a sudden that was going to help the show's popularity?
Yeah.
So you're right. You're absolutely right there. Yeah, Steve, I am dating myself. It's my age. Yeah, I'm an old man. Or getting there anyway. So I'm going to be double 29s here in a couple of months. So.
Double 29. Sounds like a movie. Double 29, starring Liam Neeson. I just saw his movie, The Commuter, was pretty good.
Yeah.
It's filmed in New York.
You got 5 years on me, have you, Joe? You must have 5 years on me.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think you've mentioned what you were before. Yeah,
he has 10 LTS cycles on you. No, just kidding. But
yeah, yeah. Oh,
I watch that sometimes. Highway or Ice Road Truckers or whatever it used to be called. It's called. It's not bad. Yeah.
Yeah, Ice Road Truckers, and then there's another one here being filmed in Canada, because they used to have O'Hare Trucking here too, or O'Hare Towing, and it was about kind of the same premise of, because that highway that they would patrol is right here, 80 miles from me. It's where I used to live in Chicago, and it is a treacherous highway. And man, some of the wrecks. But he gets a kick out of the size of some of the equipment, because when I lived and worked in Chicago, I used to drive a big wrecker for the city. It was one of the many jobs I did. And it is fascinating stuff, but it's dangerous or whatever. But that kind of stuff, even at a young age, is it the right thing for them to see? It's borderline, maybe not. you know, at that young, but at the same token, because of the way kids are being educated nowadays, it's like, well, normally you'd say, yeah, you don't want to see them seeing these major wrecks and everything else because it looks so terrible. But at the same token, I hate to say this, if you shelter them to the point where they don't see things like that, and this isn't justifying whether it's right or wrong, they're actually going to kind of almost be behind other kids that have seen it.
That's you're right.
Like, you know, and they get teased because it's like they've led a sheltered life, you know.
And
how much exposure, right?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's the same with everything in life, though, isn't it? Because if your kids don't have all the up-to-date devices and they're not up to date with technology and everything, anything in general in life, I mean, they could be falling behind.
There's three ways kids can learn about, you know, life and survival and adapting. In my opinion, there were three ways. One is learning it on the streets, like I did. I don't recommend that, even though I turned out okay, thank God, but I don't recommend that.
Right.
The second way is at home through the parents. That's the best way.
Yeah.
The third way is school. You know, of course, back then, you know, in my time, there was no computers or smartphones. It was pinball machines, you know, like when I was a kid, you know, Atari, you know, when the first Atari came out and stuff like that.
How did we get along, Toss? How did we get through it? I mean,
imagine, you mean you spent more time with friends and family? That's shocking. You actually went outside to play? Yeah. Like
I used to play sports in the rain in the backyard with my brother, you know.
Well, you know, some of these, like the hurricane that went through down south, some of the areas that were knocked out of power for a week or whatever, they said it was the first time ever that they saw the amount of kids that lived in that neighborhood because they're outside playing, because there was no electronics. There was no power to feed anything. So, you know, and that's how we grew up. You didn't sit in the house. You get your butt kicked if you were in the house. It was if you weren't doing chores, you were told to go out and play. You know,
right. Socialize, talk, right? Yeah.
Socialize,
sure.
And, you know, it's a whole. It's almost. I don't want to offend anyway, but society and schools now are being taught to, and I hate to use this phrase, but that's what we call it, is dumbing down to a level where these kids are not challenged anymore. And it's the no, you know, like when they started the No Child Left Behind thing. When I was up and coming, you were sweating bullets if you didn't keep your grades up on whether your friends were going to go ahead to the next grade, and you were held behind, and you were going to be embarrassed because now you're the big kid in the class suddenly because you got held behind. Nobody wanted to do that. You either did extra hours or you went to summer school or whatever to try to keep that from happening. Now they don't care. So again, maybe it's not the best choice of words, but that's how we look at it or have looked at it.
Well, I think we have become desensitized in a bit. You know, I was flicking YouTube the other night. I couldn't sleep, and I came across somebody posted scenes from the Kung Fu series back in the 70s, early to mid 70s, and 40 plus years later, it's still relevant. It's a beautiful classic TV show about, you know, what it means to be human, you know, choose love, you know, not hate, choose peace, not war, you know, one with nature. I mean, you know what? Look at it, but that was a simpler time.
And even when he displayed what would be considered the violent scenes in there, it wasn't truly violent like it is today. It was basically because he was cornered in the situation to defend himself, but it wasn't the blood and gore and all that stuff.
Right.
You're right. And, you know, it's just, I think the way we're going here, I mean, what's really sad, okay, how do you sign your name if you're eliminating cursive? You know, there was a thing floating around recently on Facebook about some kid that got scolded by his teacher. If I see you do this again, you're going to be in real trouble. Who does that? So how are we going to go back to the Wild West days where you sign an X? I mean, come on. That's the part that I know this has kind of got, and this is general talk night, but it is really, it's interesting subjects to think. I'd love to know how many people think like we do or differently or whatever, but I can't believe anybody I've ever seen that said they heard about them not, you know, you can't teach them cursive anymore. I don't know anybody that's not offended by that.
Yeah. Maybe we should do a live show stream one night for the parents. Parents, this is your chance.
Yeah.
to talk about your concerns, your accomplishments, your disappointments. Maybe just let it out. Maybe to help other parents who are going to have kids or just had kids, maybe help them. But that might be a good topic, Joe.
And what do they think about how technology's been introduced to school? Because I remember in my day, you weren't allowed to even use a calculator. You had to use this for your calculator.
No, well, see, my daughter and my son both weren't allowed to use calculator still up until about what are they in? I don't know how you do your schooling in America, but it's like we go up to about grade 6 and then it becomes year 7, 8, 9. I think it's up to about year 9 that they've got to do everything on paper. So, but I don't know if that just depends what school you go to either. So, but the school's definitely where we've been going to, been doing a little bit old school, which is good. So they come home and learn. But the fascinating thing I find is trying to help your kids with homework. They're doing things completely different to what we learned back in the day. So it becomes really hard to sort of get around how they're doing it these days, especially mathematics and all that as well. So,
well, even my kids, they came up here in a Catholic school. They did very well in those schools. Those schools had a strong curriculum. However, I remember, we were the type of parents we were involved. We would not do their homework for them.
Yeah.
But we would sit there and we would help them. And I remember kids coming to me and asking me for help, like you mentioned, mathematics. And I'm sitting here and I remember batting my brains. I'm thinking, I'm getting old, but I'm not that old. And at the time I was a carpenter, remodeler, contractor. And I use math all the time. And I, for the life of me, couldn't come up with a specific answer until I finally found out what the curriculum was.
Yes.
You know what the curriculum was? They didn't want a specific answer. You estimate the closest possibility. I said, what kid is going to go through life estimating the closest possibility? When somebody walks up to a register, they're going to estimate the change. It's funny. And that being said, I remember going to a little snack shop here and I bought a dessert or whatever, and it was $4 and some change, whatever it was. I gave her a $5 bill and the exact change. She stood there with the $5 bill and the exact change. And she's going like this. Looking. I said, "It's $1 back." She goes, "Oh," she goes, "Well, I was in school all day. I'm kind of tired." I said, "Well, you better go back and learn something." She looked at me like, God. I said, "If you can't figure out how to give an even dollar back, and that's really scary." Because the register, they're so used to the register and everything being done for them. And now they've got the Surface tablets and whatever else they're using in the schools. So all they got to do if they don't know something is they Google it.
Or click their magic box, their cell phone. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I hate to sound so negative and pessimist, but the reality of it is when you compare to where we came from, and we all did just fine through life.
Yeah.
It just makes me wonder.
I always firmly believe that you had to be challenged, because that's the best way of learning. Or you make mistakes and you learn by your mistake. You know how many times I was doing my homework. I had a desk in my bedroom, wasn't a big room either, and I'd have to write out a report or write something for school, and I'd bring it out. My parents say, "I want to see it, before you go to bed or get ready or whatever you're going to do." And I'd bring it out there, and my father would look at it, and he'd ball it up and throw it on the floor. He said, "Do it over." I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "It's not neat enough. Doesn't even look like you tried to write it right." And I thought I did.
Wow.
But that's, what would happen. Or he'd tear it up. So it was,
it's I was just thinking before the age of computers, tablets, cell phones, smartphones, whatever, in a way we had operating systems. Think about it. The type of life you want to live, that's your operating system. The type of friends you want to hang out. We hung out with as kids. We chose a system of behavior based on what was comfortable for us, based on our values. Right. So even back then we had OSs, but it just wasn't technological OSs. It was life OSs,
Yeah.
And I think there was still a a fondness for that and a need for that. Maybe that's why I watched the Kung Fu series, getting back with humans and nature and people and what's important. But you're right. We are being, like Joe says, desensitized. I go out to a theater. I shut my phone off or I put it on mute, and it's in my pocket. I don't have, unless for some reason I'm waiting for a call or something urgent. But for those 2 hours, I don't want to be bothered.
That's right.
Now, when the
I agree.
previews play, okay, I might look it, but even then, I feel like I'm intruding on somebody else. I'll just put it in my pocket, put it on vibrate if I'm waiting for something, or just shut it off. Restaurants, I don't want to be bothered by things and this and that and tunes. Shut up and enjoy the meal, man.
Yeah, that's right.
Not to be rude or nothing, but you're right. Getting back to human basics, I think, is what we need. And we are distracted. Obviously, texting and driving is still a thing. We are becoming somewhat less human, almost. Technology is winning. There was a Life in Linux I did with Switch to Linux, humanity versus technology. It seems like right now technology might be winning. It doesn't have to be that way. But I don't watch TV. I have on demand Comcast. I watch the channels I want to watch. I'll watch like history, National Geographic, some of the more like educational stuff, because a lot of stuff on TV is the same. It's just not quality stuff to me, But that's one way to use technology to enhance, your understanding of the world, about history, give you some more, insight, like World War II, stuff like that, and why it happened. But you are right. There are times I leave the house, I forget my phone. I feel like I left my left foot at home.
Yeah,
it's like
it's so true.
It's not good. This is not, no.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, Colin. So it's not
very
good.
True.
And if the parents don't think it's good, Jesus, what about the kids? You think it's good for them?
Yeah.
So
well, the thing is, we're so used to like if you your kids or your wife or your partner or whatever wants to contact you, you know that you're not contactable, right? And if there was an emergency back in the day, I think, somebody just pick up the phone and call home, because somebody most of the time will be at home or call work, right? But work was called only for an emergency, right? That's it. But these days it might be a simple question that somebody wants to ask you, because we're so used to it. That's why we feel like we're naked when we leave home without our phone.
My dad, he's in Italy. He's old school, old fashioned Italian. He's been retired. He doesn't he doesn't have a computer. I think he may just have a flip phone or a smartphone. Last fall.
I'm going to interrupt you a second. Can you see the chat?
I'm looking at it now. Okay. All right. Got it. Thank you. Last fall, he was thinking maybe I should fly to Italy to help him with the subtitles of his movie project. I'm thinking, and I said, Pop, I don't have to. It's called email. Send me the script.
Yeah.
Send me the script. I'll read it. Yeah, I didn't need the whole script, just a dialogue, Send me the script and I'll make the corrections. Oh, okay. That's how he sent me the script. I read all 40 plus pages of dialogue. Okay, well, this is translated wrong. Do this, do that. I called him on Skype, or I was using Gmail. So what's it called? Gtalk? I don't even know what it's called. I'm drawing a blank. You know what I mean? You can call through like using Gmail. And I called him. He called me back. We went through this, corrected that. Well, this translation from Italian doesn't quite. I said, don't worry about it. Just make it close. People will get the emotion of the scene by looking at it, But, I didn't have to spend $2,000 to fly there to fix words on a page in the script, But God bless him, he's old school. He wanted me to go there and face to face and talk, and I get it. But it wasn't necessary. I spent a lot of money just to correct, phrases,
So true.
But the moral of that story, but the point is, again, that one-on-one is missing. it's
Yeah.
or it's fading away, and it's not good. It's not good,
I
and
remember I seen a cartoon a long time ago. There was this person, this lady drowning in the water, and then the
yeah,
cartoonist drew all these people standing on the
yeah,
edge, filming the lady drowning, but not one person helping her. And and sometimes you feel as though that's what life's become a little bit
yeah,
sometimes. But it's good to be able to put your phone away, sit around, have a
yes,
good chat with everybody, and just do old school stuff is good.
yeah. Um, just off topic real quick, Omega B says I've been thinking of getting a 120 gigabyte SSD. Is Toshiba a good brand for SSD? Um, I bought a Toshiba external drive. It's fine. I've had Toshiba laptop running Linux on it. As far as SSDs, do you guys have any ideas? I don't have an SSD drive yet.
I normally buy the Samsung ones. They've
Okay.
worked okay for me. I don't know really. At the end of the day,
Okay.
Tosh,
I actually,
Tosh,
the 240 I have in here is a Seagate, and that's been very reliable. But I've had
Mhm.
typically Samsungs or
Okay.
Crucials. I actually bought a PNY, and I just commented back to him in there for the laptop, the test laptop. But the key is looking at the IOP cycles, which, if they're like over a million, or the higher the
Yeah.
number, the better, or the read write cycles. I try to stay over 500 in both. That doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily mean they're going to get all of
Yeah.
that, but that's its potential. And the
Okay.
Samsungs now have what they call stacks in them, which allows them to do more
Okay.
and pretty quicker. And that's what kind of sets them apart. And that's why typically you pay a little bit
I
more money for them.
when I bought this Toshiba external, like a backup drive, I go to Amazon and I'll look at the consumer ratings. People like me who buy it,
Yeah,
it say it was great or it died. It lasted me 10 years, 1 day. And that's how I buy stuff, and that's how I recommend it. I mean, I can't possibly test every single thing out there in the tech world.
no, that's right.
But if you get enough people, and I'm looking for a pattern. I'm looking for a pattern, and Toshiba seems reliable, so that's why I recommend this. If you're looking for an external simple drive, backup, this is 1 terabyte. I think it was like $47 or something. But I look at the price, think, well, that seems cheap somewhat, but let me look at the ratings. And if I see a pattern, if it's good or whatever, it works or whatever. I mean, it could be anything, this, a toaster or whatever. And that's how
right.
I buy. So,
Yeah, I've got two 5 terabyte Seagate externals. One is my wife's, one's mine. And
okay.
of course, you can pay more money. I think I paid around $159 or something like
Okay.
that for them. But that's because we house not only a lot of files, photos, things like that
Yeah.
are important to us too.
Yeah.
But if if like what you're saying, if you have a terabyte up, that's perfectly fine in a great price range.
Yes. And well, in fact, if you're new to backups, have never done it, you may want to get two or more, not
Yeah,
to force you to buy more off the Amazon link, but just in case you drop one or it breaks or it goes bad. Yeah, it just common
right,
sense.
Mm.
I have three external drives plus multiple USB sticks. You can never back up too much, especially family photos, wedding.
Yes.
If they're gone, they're gone.
Oh, yes, I know. I've done that twice.
It's okay.
Twice I was actually I didn't realize I had my USB plugged
Okay.
in, and I
Yeah.
wiped out all my family pictures,
Oh.
videos, and the whole lot. It took me a week the first time to get them all back,
Okay.
and then it took me a couple of days the second time to
Okay.
get them all back. I couldn't believe I'd done it again.
Okay.
But yeah, it's good to have it all on a. I've
You
got
know,
two different drives.
Probably of all the things I would force my fans or my subscribers to buy, even if you don't buy them off my Amazon, like just go out to Walmart, buy backup drives, as many as you can afford,
Yeah, they're
right?
cheap. They're cheap now.
Nowadays, yeah, just
Yeah.
go ahead and get them. And you have, I got three external ones. I feel comfortable with three. I thought about buying another, but I'll stick with the three, until they become full.
Ah,
Well, it's like you were saying, Colin. If one goes bad, if two goes bad, it's possible. I've never had two go bad. You have a third one. I like three for whatever reason. You
Well,
know.
the one thing that people don't realize about USBs, just like DVDs,
Yeah.
eventually
Yeah.
DVDs, the media fades over time. And
Yes.
theoretically, I've not had this happen, but theoretically, it can happen in as short a time as like a year and a half.
Yes.
And same thing with USBs, depending on how many times they're written to or whatever.
Right.
You know, that media tends to go bad a little
Yes.
quicker. Then these type of drives, even if you have a solid state drive and used it for a backup, they are still nothing more than electronic circuit boards. So the rule of thumb is you should have at least 3 backups.
Okay.
Whether it's mechanicals like those or SSD, whatever, and a third backup goes off-site somewhere.
Okay.
Is what they say.
Yeah, I mean, I use Dropbox and Google Drive occasionally. I don't use it a lot because they have the privacy issue, but that's convenient.
Well, when I say off-site, I'm talking about 2. Maybe you get a third drive and you stick it in a safety deposit box or something. But you know, it's a little more of a hassle when you get it to update it or whatever. But,
or you stick it in a fireproof safe at home and put it, you know, at the lowest point of the house because that's where it's going to be the coolest.
Right.
So, you know, that's what I do. So that's not a bad idea.
Right.
You know, there's other options. I do upload photos to Google Drive as well.
Okay.
And I choose not every photo, just a certain amount of photos that if something terribly went wrong, I've still got some family history there to look at. So, you know, it's just one of those things that you should do.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, and I have mine in a safe right now. The thing is I wondered too about temperature in there, so I actually have some silica packets in there too, just to keep any moisture out as well.
Yeah.
There are safes that actually have dryers in them and stuff, but so I've always been concerned because I've never kept them theoretically in a safe before like that.
Yeah.
So I do have some concerns that way. You know, is it
right? Okay. All right. I mean, better safe than sorry, huh?
Better.
I couldn't resist, but all right. It's 10:48, so I'm going to wrap the live stream up here in a few.
I'm going to go. My wife's probably woken up wondering where I am.
Well, thank you for stopping by.
Yeah, it's great, Toss. Always great talking to you.
What is it, 6 o'clock in the morning by you, Colin? Or
no, it's about the same time as Toss in the morning. So you're almost 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
I'm
11 o'clock at night.
Oh, that's right. You're about 12 hours difference, aren't you?
12 hours, yeah. And Rocco, I think it's about
London
13. Time. I think it's 13 or 11 with Rocco, depending whether he's on daylight savings or not. See, because you're central.
You're in Australia. The UK is 6 hours apart from us.
Yeah. Toss, you're central, aren't you? You must be.
No, I'm Eastern, like Rocco. He's in Pennsylvania.
He's an hour ahead of me right now.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's actually 11 hours, I think, difference when you're not daylight savings, something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. So.
Okay.
So central, I think, is 12 hours normally. Yeah. Something like that.
Yep. All right, Colin.
All right.
Maybe I'll catch you next week. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. I'm always trying to catch you during the week, but it's too hard. You know, I'm working.
See you tomorrow night.
Yeah, well, for me, morning. So, yep.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's my most favorite thing to do.
We'll see you tomorrow on planet Earth. Yeah. Okay.
That's it.
Somewhere
on
the planet.
Yeah. Right.
I just like talking to people. I'm starting to make some good friends here on Big Daddy Linux Live and Toss as well. I've been watching you for a long time, Toss.
Well, thank you. I've been doing this longer than I thought I would. It's been amazing.
And he doesn't look like he's aged a minute in the last 8 years.
Yeah, really, yeah.
I never thought I'd be talking to you live, to be honest, because I just used to love watching you and Spatry. It was, I think it was on my Sunday night or something. It used to be the biggest laugh I could have for the week.
Well, I got to I miss doing those shows. Like I said, in fact, I made a comment before. I am closing in on 2,000 videos on my channel.
Nice.
I need to call my psychologist Monday. No, but
I'm closing in on 50, so I'm.
Okay. Well, you're not quite there yet.
Yeah,
Can you borrow him Colin so he can hit his 2,000?
I've only been doing it for 12 months, and I'm not monetized. I just like to do it for fun.
I understand.
Whenever I get some time, but it's a passion of mine.
Yeah.
To make videos where new people to Linux can just, watch them and learn how to do things.
Yeah, sure.
It's nice.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So thanks, Toss.
Thank you.
And nice talking again, Joe. I'll see you tomorrow night.
Yeah, sure will.
All righty.
All right. See you
care,
later.
Colin.
See
Okay.
ya.
Bye.
See ya.
All right, guys in the chat, last call for comments, questions, suggestions. I'll wrap up the live stream here. Always a pleasure. This, if you're joining in late, you can replay this. I may transcode this into a podcast if you want to take it on the go. I know at least some of you like to play it in the car. Play it in the car, going for a walk or whatever. But yeah. Try to call again in the chat, but pressure. Hello, but I'm surprised Coding Commander didn't join tonight. She's usually on from Florida. But you have been listening and watching Total OS Today, Total Technology for Beginners and Beyond. I'm a Windows user that promotes Linux. As strange as that sounds, there are other choices out there if you are new to the world of Linux. So, happy to help at least some of you out over the years about, something called Ubuntu that may have been new to you, or Linux Mint or Zorin and many others. So I hope to be doing this for 8 more years and maybe 2,000 more videos. Oh my God, Anyway, but check out the links below if you haven't. You can support the channel through PayPal. If you'd like to help support, this is a community-funded channel for the most part. My podcasts, I pretty much upload 99% of them on archive.org, Steve. Just search Total OS Today or Total OS Today Live, something like that. Just go to archive.org. The downloads are free. They will be free. If you want to support the podcast, maybe donate $1 through PayPal, whatever you think is fair. But check archive.org, and you can find them there to download. I think I have a few video podcasts, but mainly audio podcasts, Steve. Yeah. So, sometimes if in my car or whatever, I'll listen to the Ubuntu podcast. It just makes it more convenient, or, something else. How the Kagan says, how do we send emotional support? How about a hug? There we go. Yes, Omega. Yes, that's my co-host Joe Panico. He asked, are you the guy in the live stream?
Yeah.
Yes, that is true. So archive.org, yes. And I have I should have a lot of the do's and nonsense on there. My original podcast with Infinitely Galactic on there. I think I may have called those Toss Today Tech Talk or something, but yeah.
And much like Colin, I said the same thing when I started watching you, a few years ago, and who'd ever thought we'd be sitting here talking to each other now? I mean, it's just,
I know.
But it's a great thing, That's part of
this is cool. This is the positive use of technology. This is the sensitizing of technology. Kagan says, "Oh man, my wife walked in on us virtual hugging." Well, we just like to do some male bonding, okay? Give a hug, man.
Yeah. That's what Italians do. They hug.
They hug. That's what we do, man.
Yeah. No, but even aside from technology, I think a lot of it is you get brought together because of the community itself too.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's the sharing of ideas, knowledge, jokes. So anyway, Kate, I'm sending your wife a virtual hello. Stephen Anderson, will your dad's movie be coming to the USA? Stephen, I don't know. There was a private invitation-only screening in Italy, in Rome, about 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago. I guess it went very well. He got a standing ovation there. He's gotten approval from the Vatican and the Italian Jewish community. Those are nice endorsements to have. He's just looking for an investor. Me and Joe were talking about this off camera. He's looking for an investor. My dad's goal to help speed things up. He wants to cut a deal to put the movie into about 50 theaters there in Italy, in Rome or somewhere, just to get it started, just to get the people in and spread the word out. And I think that will do well. Once the word spreads, and he'll recoup that investment, like whoever invests that month easily, if not that weekend, in my opinion. But once he can get it out there, then maybe he can get some other powers that be involved to cut a deal to distribute it here in the States. He's gotten offers to sell his rights to the movie for money. My dad says, I'm not doing this just for the money. I wanted to do this because this story that needs to be told. Catholic saving Jews, World War II. And in the end, he told me, he did it for me. He wanted some to leave behind for me and my son. So that's my dad. So I don't have an answer, Stephen. I wish I did, but it's a tough business, Hollywood business. It can be very demanding and frustrating. But the invitation-only screening went well. Thank God, because if it didn't, he'd have to start over. And there's no way he could start over at age 82 or whatever. I lost track, something like that. But I'll let you know. As soon as he can find an investor, we'll start in Italy, get the movie shown to the masses, and I think that'll kick it off. So, it's probably because trying to find Linux users locally would be almost impossible. Yeah, Madhouse, that depends where you're at. There aren't any here that I'm aware of here in town. So,
yeah, we have and believe it or not, I found it a while back on I think it was Craigslist. They had a local Linux user group, and then I also saw. I remember I found another website or whatever, but they don't still, believe it or not, don't seem the same. Or I don't want to use the word organized. There's something they're not maybe as immersed in it as some of the people like on here through chats and whatever else, and forums and Facebook forums, and so that might be the best way to go is look at the Facebook forums too, if you're on Facebook, because there's a lot of good groups there that can be helpful. If you're not sure, you'll get usually instant responses on things. Sometimes you might get overwhelmed with responses more than you really care to have, but point is you still get responses.
It's possible in 2018, everything you need to know about Linux might be on YouTube. It's possible. This wasn't the case 10 years ago. That's why I started my channel. But I think nowadays for content consumers, I think it's fantastic. From what I've seen. Kagan says we could take a field trip to Italy to watch the movie. I could probably get us lodging at the U.S. Army installation in Vicenza. Interesting. Kagan, thank you. May take you up. I mean, I've seen the movie multiple times. I help, finalize it. But thank you. That's see, this is what I mean by community. It isn't just about Linux, check out, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, check out the links below in the show notes. There's a link to Wix. I put up a little teaser trailer of the movie, a little bit of background. That's about a minute and a half. I got my dad's approval to make that the official USA trailer until he sells it. But take a look at that, and it'll give you some idea what I'm talking about. Do you mind giving me permission to share the video on here? What are you talking about, Omega? A naval base there? Okay. Nephew went to film school, has been doing little vignettes. Okay, I've done a couple little ones for his class. I'm going to be the next one we start filming next week. That's great, man. I just want to let you know that it's a long, depending on the projects. My dad's film took about 5 years to finish. So it can be a long, stressful, arduous, expensive project, depending what you're doing. And there's no guarantee that you could get paid for it or get paid back for it. Anyway, but yeah, it can be a wonderful journey, So good luck, Steve Winkler. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Anything else before we wrap this up? Again, I might do another live one this Sunday afternoon. I'll show probably brief highlights of my Alan Pope Ubuntu interview. For those of you who just want to get to the brief notes of it, because I think it's important. Clarify some things about Ubuntu using GNOME versus something else. So I think that's it for this one. Again, you can play this back on the replay. I'll catch you guys maybe Sunday. If not, probably next Friday night, unless something pops up. Sunday afternoon, like when the sun's up, Madhouse Jack. Sunday afternoon, like after lunch. How does that sound for me locally? All right. I am done on behalf of myself and Joe. Thank you for joining me. I'll catch you guys next time. So, enjoy your technology, but don't lose your humanity. How does that sound? I think that sounds good. All right. Take care.
Good night, everybody.